believe we are live. Yes, here we go. There we go. All right. Now, we are going to get this other stream going here in just a second. I didn't know if YouTube was going to connect to my OBS, so we are perfect. Let's get this going here. This is new for me though, so we are using OBS here today to help me out. And again, let me just get this updated here. I'm trying to see if I can see anything on this end. So if you write in the chat, I should be able to see it. Hopefully, we will see. Again, let me know. Hopefully, like I said, I can see that. Premier League live. Sorry, I'm getting this other one up in here. So I do apologize if you are just hopping in right now. Live. We gotta change that. Live show. And we are bringing this in. Capture moments that happen. Alright, I think it should be good. We're a minute in. Perfect. Okay, good. Alright, and I forgot to make. Hold on, I forgot to make one thing here. So I feel like I should have had that set up here, but that's okay. Photo, new. Go here. Nope, that's not what we want. Discard. And looking here, try to see. I think everything is set up right. If you are hopping in right now, again, I apologize. Some technical difficulties with the stream itself. I think there's a little bit of a lag, which is probably how it should be, which is totally fine. But we are trying to get everything up and running here. And hopefully my volume is working. I have no idea too if my volume is working. I guess I should probably check that too. If someone could give me an idea if my volume is working, that'd be great. There we go. Download that. Go here. Alright. And then alright. And then we should be good here as well. So really curious to see how this now turns out because we are getting a late start here. Over here though, again, we will be looking at both of them. And like I said, what we're going to be talking about here in this live is obviously what we've been seeing in the Premier League. Obviously, we had a game Friday, Liverpool, big match for them against Bournemouth. And then today, Saturday, some big matches that happened here as well. I mean, we saw a big upset with Sunderland, which we will talk about Sunderland in just a second. Brighton versus Fulham. We saw Manchester City, who obviously looked great again. We will talk about City in this live here. But then there was also the talks about what we just saw with Tottenham. I think Tottenham definitely deserves some talking points here. So like I said, in this live, we're going to be talking about what we all saw here. I do have a few thoughts here as well. So if people want to ask me, I figured I'd put that back up for my prediction. If you've been here before, we obviously have made some predictions here. They are a little bit wild, but like I said, I think some of these are a little bit more accurate after seeing what I saw today. So let's see how it all plays out. Obviously, the big thing I think that we need to talk about first, though, is Sunderland. How amazing was Sunderland today? I mean, watching this match, it's ridiculous how loud and how crazy that stadium. And I can't believe it's been 8 years since watching Sunderland play in the Premier League. I feel like it was only like a handful of seasons ago watching them play, and they have been missed. I feel like they've been missed so long in the Premier League. Them and Stoke, I think those are the two teams that really just remind me of the Barclays. Obviously, a lot of the other teams do too, but watching them play, the fans themselves were just right behind them. You literally could not hear the commentators at all during the entire match. I felt like when I was watching Sunderland, it was one of those things where, like I said, I was watching it, didn't know what was happening, especially after they scored that goal, and then they go and then score two more after that. Americans talking about football get me angry. Yeah, I'm sorry that you're getting angry. Hopefully you have a better day. You can always listen to someone else if you want to. But that being said, I mean, Sunderland, I think, is a team that's going to be very difficult to beat this upcoming year. If you look at what they just did to West Ham, who I do believe West Ham is going to be a team that does go down. I think they did get relegated, which is why I think two of the three teams that did get promoted are definitely going to stay up. Bro, why do you support Chelsea? I'm a Michael Ballack fan, so therefore, again, Michel Ballack was one of my favorite players. He played for Chelsea, and therefore, again, I'm a Chelsea fan. I also did like a few of the other players, prior to him coming to Chelsea, but I've been following him, so I'm Bayern Leverkusen, or a Bayern, well, he did play for Bayern Leverkusen, but more of a Bayern München fan as well in the Bundesliga. But that being said, Sunderland, I think when any team comes to them, it has to play them at home. They're going to struggle a little bit. It's not going to be easy walk in the park. I think that's going to be a hard part for them, just because, like I said, when you see what just happened against West Ham had a few opportunities. Obviously, Jared Bowen is a very good player, but I think he's one of the only players right now at West Ham that really can carry his own weight. If you look at the rest of that squad, it's not that good. And like I said, they pretty much were getting dominated. And yes, it was back and forth throughout the match, but there was times where, like I said, that West Ham, when West Ham, like I said, just didn't really get things going for the most part. They really did struggle, and yes, they had a few opportunities, but Sunderland always had an answer for them. And scoring 3 goals, that's not really just some random luck. If they would have won 1-0, I would have said yes, it was a good game. They held their grounds, they held a clean sheet, which they obviously did do. But the fact that they scored 3 goals shows you that this team can actually score goals, or that West Ham have a very leaky back line, which it could be both of them. I wouldn't be surprised if that is the case for the most part, and that's why I do believe Graham Potter will be sacked first. I do feel sorry for the man because he obviously did a phenomenal job at Brighton, but now, like I said, when he went to Chelsea, it didn't work out with Chelsea. We all know how that went. Then he goes into West Ham, and West Ham was a complete dumpster fire when he went there. And that team is going to struggle. It doesn't matter who you bring in right now. Yes, someone else could come in and turn it around, but Graham Potter right now, if he's leading that team each and every week, West Ham are going to have a long season, and they are definitely not going to get over relegation for the most part. I don't Man U finished in the top 5 in 10 years, or top 5 in 10, yes. I think they can finish in the top 10 or top 5, in my opinion, because I think some of the players that they have, that again is one of those things, like I said, I think they can really do well just because of the attacking team that they have. Again, you think about how they're going to actually attack. Like I said, it's one of those things that they can do more defending while attacking. And yes, I think their back line is fairly decent as well. But like I said, it's one of those things that, yes, I think Amran is definitely going to do better this upcoming season. I think he had a full season, full preseason, summer transfer, sold some players, and therefore, again, it's going to be one of those things where I do believe that he will be able to do a lot better with this side. And like I said, the players that they brought in is obviously a big thing. Can you say a shout out to Elsa Kenawan for an edit? I'll tag you in the video. I'm not sure if that's what you want me to do, but there you go. But again, talking about Manchester United for a second, and maybe we'll come back to Sunderland in just a second here. But the only problem that United have right now, if I'm thinking about it, is really their goalkeeper. And yes, you could argue that Ugarte may not be the best CDM. They're not going to get Baliba from Brighton. It seems like he's going to play for them the rest of the season. I think he's going to wait till the end of this season to then go to a bigger club, whether he stays in the Premier League or goes to another European side. But I do believe Ugarte may be the right fit for Hamran. Again, he obviously played with him at Sporting, so he does know what's expected of him. I just think it took him some time to get used to the Premier League, and yes, it didn't really work out for the most part. 0 of 10, bro. Yeah, I guess 0 of 10. But like I said, it did take some time for him to get used to. And I do think this year will actually be more of a breakout year for Ugarte. If you're thinking about players who are going to have a redemption season, he could easily be one of those guys this year. And I do believe it's because, like I said, some of the other players I brought in, Bruno Fernandes doesn't have to carry the weight to score all the goals. You have Kuna, who can obviously dictate on the left side, and Bomo on the right side, Sesko, who they just brought in. So they have multiple factoring players that can definitely score the goals. So therefore, Bruno doesn't always have to push forward. It's not going to leave this massive gap in the midfield, which we saw with Erik ten Hag. Like, he literally let Casemiro by himself in that midfield, which is obviously did not work for how old that player was, or even when it was Ugarte. Those two players cannot roam and dominate the midfield like we've seen with Rodri before his injury, or Caicedo at Chelsea. So like I said, I do think it does work out better for this year for United. What makes you think Palmer will break the assist record? He had 8 assists last season. Because we don't have Nico Jackson as our top striker, I think it's pretty obvious that João Pedro is a bigger and better striker than Nico Jackson. And also on top of that, we also have Liam Delap. Then you're thinking about the other players. We also brought in Jamie Gittins. I think he's going to be a very good left winger. I do think Estevao on the right side is going to be phenomenal. Then you throw in Pedro Neto. All those players, again, are going to be balls that Palmer can just feed the ball to. But really, I do believe João Pedro definitely hits probably 15 to 20 goals. And I do believe Liam Delap also hits double digits. And I do believe that Cole Palmer's the guy who's going to be feeding the ball to all those players. And over time, I think they're going to get more and more confidence, which is why I do believe that Chelsea have the opportunity this year to actually win it. Now, again, I know they had some injuries. Obviously, the back line could be a big factor for Chelsea not winning it. But if you think about some of the other sides, Liverpool are, again, they are top right now, one of the teams that people are predicting to win it. But their back line, I don't think, is as strong as well. I mean, they've had a few mishaps this past match against Bournemouth. And like I said, we saw how Bournemouth can actually hit them on the counterattack, and that's just Bournemouth. I think other teams like that can also do the same thing to them. And I do think Konate might be more of an X factor that might lead them to leading to more goals, because he definitely got overworked on that second goal. Semenyo, when he just drove right through the middle, he didn't know what to do. He didn't know to go left or right, which pretty much stopped Virgil van Dijk to step up as well. And then Kirkes also seemed like he was a little out of place. And then Frimpong, I think same thing. They both are going to push up too much, and therefore, like I said, this could be a huge issue for Liverpool and their defense as well. So again, we're thinking about defense-wise. I think Chelsea and Liverpool are very similar. Do I think the center backs obviously are better for Liverpool? I'm not that diluted, but I do think our right back and left back are better. So again, if you're comparing both sides, I think arguably they could be very similar for the most part. I didn't realize I'm missing a bunch of messages here. Frimpong was terrible. I think Frimpong picked up an injury as well, and you got to think too. Was his first match in the Premier League, and it's the first match of everyone. So like, there's a lot of pressure on this. You're playing for the team that just won the Premier League, so therefore, again, you're also taking Trent Alexander-Arnold's position. So there are some huge things, like I said, that he had to step into. Now, obviously, he played for Leverkusen, and he did a phenomenal job there, but I think it will take some time for him to actually get back into things. You seriously think Chelsea will win the league without having a top three goal scorer? Yeah, I mean, think about that. Erling Haaland scored a brace today. He's just going to knock it to the park each and every week when he plays those lower clubs. We've seen it time and time again. He's probably going to have multiple hat tricks. That doesn't mean, though, that every game he's going to score a goal. He can score against smaller sides and rack up goals left and right. I do think Gyökeres, again, with the service he's going to get at Arsenal, I think, again, it's going to be very good. But I don't believe Arsenal are going to win all those big matches when they play against, say, City, when they play against Liverpool, when they play against Chelsea. I think they're going to struggle quite a bit. And then Mo, you have to put Mo in the top three. I think, again, time after time after time, history shows you that Mo is just going to be a guy that's going to be scoring goals, and he just obviously keeps doing it. But I do think he's going to be third, just because I think they are going to separate the goals between him, Ekitike, Verts, possibly if Isak's going there, but maybe they don't need Isak now. I'm not too sure after watching that first match. But then Cody Gakpo, they have multiple players that can score goals, which, like I said, might make it difficult for Mohamed Salah to actually score a lot of goals this season, but I think he's still going to pick up quite a few assists, so he will be a very good player to even be in third. Like, that's not supposed to be a knock at him at all. Not really. He won the ball back a lot, and to be fair, it's his first Premier game, and he's 24. Frimpong, yeah, again, I think there was a lot of expectation for Frimpong, so therefore, like I said, it's one of those, I don't think that he played that bad, and I do believe he may have felt his hamstring from what I remember, so therefore didn't play a full 90. But I do think over time he will keep playing. I was really surprised by Kirkes, though, because I don't think he played that well, and obviously playing for Bournemouth last year, I thought for sure he would step into that left back role fairly easy. But I'm not saying Robertson's that much better. I think he's been really declining in the last handful of seasons. So therefore, again, I don't think that's the full guy that they're going to start or trust with. I think Kirkes is going to keep starting and obviously get better and better. And maybe there was some jitters too, like I said, for Liverpool, first game of the season. So who knows? But overall, I think Liverpool did play very well that game. I'll be honest, if we had Trent, we would have bet Bournemouth about six. Yeah, I mean, Trent is such a good player going forward, and they obviously know, like, that's the difference too. Like, they had Trent, they had Robertson last year, so they understand those players. Whereas Frimpong, yes, they've had some training, but they don't fully understand how he's going to operate, how he's going to run back and forth. But he made some overlapping runs from Mohamed Salah, and I think that by itself is going to be very lethal for Liverpool if you're looking at what that actually does, because that's going to create plenty of space for Mo, and obviously we all know that he can hit a ball from outside the box and even further out with his left foot. He can curl a shot, he can just drive it straight at goal. So like I said, I think the overrunning from him is going to be very helpful for him, and like I said, their midfield is very good too. So this right here, the top five, I do believe that really it's going to be very close. Again, if we're looking at the top five by the end of the season, it's probably going to be like 6 6 points, maybe 8 points. It's going to separate them for the most part. Sunderland give Chelsea a good game. Sunderland didn't play Chelsea; they played West Ham, and maybe that's what you meant, bro. Even though Sunderland and Leeds have had a better window, Wolves team has much more depth. It doesn't matter. Wolves lost two. The reason why, okay, so if we're looking to the three promoted teams staying up, I do think, again, Sunderland and Leeds stay up. I think Burnley could actually stay up as well. I do think it's going to be very difficult for him. Scotty Parker, I think it just every time he comes up with a team in the Premier League, he definitely does bad, whereas he's a very good championship manager. And like I said, that's the reason why I think they may go down of the one of the three from the promoted teams. But then Wolves, you have to look at where they were scoring goals last year. Over 50% of their goals came from Kuna and Nouri. Nouri went to Manchester City. Kuna's obviously at Manchester United, and therefore that is a huge void that they now have to fill in. And even against Manchester City, I don't really see they didn't really do much. And yes, you could argue it's against Manchester City, and then like I said, it's difficult to maybe beat them. And we will talk about some of the players from Man City here shortly. But overall, I just didn't really see much. And then, well, I'm blanking on his name right now. Starson. They're forward right now. He had an okay game, but I don't think he's going to get the ball fed to him too much, and he doesn't offer too much going forward. Like, again, he's not a guy that can take the ball, dribble it, and drive towards goal. He has to be fed the ball. He kind of plays like an Erling Haaland. Like, there's not much length of play with him. He may drop a ball back once or twice, but overall, he's not a guy that you can really rely on for the most part to play the ball to and let him do a few things like you can see with Ekitike, you can see with Kuna, obviously, you can see with a lot of the other strikers in the Premier League. So therefore, again, he may be a reliability for Wolves. And if he's not scoring goals, it's like they're playing with 10 men. And therefore, again, I think Wolves is really going to struggle this year. West Ham is the other big team I think is going to struggle. And I do believe that Brentford is also going to go down. Now, Brentford hasn't played yet, so we can't really say how it's going to go for them. But I do think they are going to struggle this year. So those are my three picks. Burnley, Brentford, and West Ham are going to be going down this year. Wolves won more points without Kuna. It doesn't matter if they won more points without Kuna. You're also forgetting Nouri as well. They lost two players that are very, very important for them. It's not just one player. They lost two players. That whole left side is completely different for Wolves. And like I said, those two players were creating a lot of chances for them. So like I said, it makes a huge difference. Bro have hovering over, what is that? Potter's going to do a good job. The team improved and add some good midfielders, they'll be comfortable. I mean, after watching them play against Sunderland, and they didn't beat Sunderland, that's a team that they should be beating. Like, if you're thinking about relegation battle, Sunderland's probably going to be in that relegation zone. They just lost to one of the teams that got promoted. Now, again, their next match and match after that are fairly difficult. And if they don't win the next handful of matches, they may go 5 matches without winning a single game and be sitting at the bottom of the table. If that does happen for them, that could be a huge issue, not just for obviously Graham Potter, because now he's double thinking how he should actually run his tactics for the most part. But a lot of the players then too are really going to struggle. They're not going to have the confidence. And like I said, we don't have confidence for players. It's very difficult to get things rolling. And I do believe if things really do go south for West Ham, Graham Potter most likely will get sacked. They have to bring someone else in. I don't know who at that point would be available, but whoever it is has to really turn around. And I don't know if that's going to happen for the most part. But anyways, so Manchester City, I do want to talk about them. Brentford actually still have an all-right team. Their manager just isn't proven. I mean, the problem with Brentford, though, too, they lost Flecken, who was a great goalkeeper last year. They lost their captain. They lost Mbomo, and it looks like Visa might be on his way out as well. So they are losing pretty much their entire spine from last year, plus their manager. And Thomas Frank obviously was a phenomenal manager. I think he's going to get the best out of Tottenham, which is why I do think Kudus will be a very good signing. 2 assists today, which again, we'll get to that as well. We're trying to talk about everything, but I'm also trying to get to the comments down in this area. So if there's any comments anywhere else, we will answer those hopefully. We have Wolfie, who's good, and are getting a new right back. Let me see here the other messages here. The Wolves board cherish the Premier League title too much, and if we are struggling, they'll spend money. The problem is, if you are struggling too much too late in the Premier League, you can throw money at it, but it's not going to work because the points themselves are going to make a huge difference. And last year, for a long time, Wolves did struggle, and they didn't throw too much money into. Now, granted, last year, I think a lot of the time, The teams that came up really did struggle for the most part. So I think Wolves were fine last year. But had it been any other promoted side, I think Wolves probably would have went down last year. And there is a possibility they could go down this year. But I do think they just sneak out and don't go down this year. At least too much squad depth and world class players in every position. I'm not sure who we're talking about there at Romeo, so I'm not sure what we saw there. They've signed a new striker, Henderson and Kelleher, and still have Colin Shada and etc. I mean, they do have those guys, and I think Kelleher will be a good signing for them. It's just like I said. I think when you lose some of those players, it makes it very difficult. But again, I'm probably gonna be wrong on majority of these, but I'm just saying that's what I'm seeing for the most part. Like I said, when you're watching some of these games, you start seeing some of these things over and over for the most part. Arsenal, Liverpool, and City all made massive signings. Chelsea can't compete, honestly. Hold on. I got a piece of hair in my mouth. I mean, I think they can. They took. Um, this is what I don't get. So people saying Chelsea can't compete with them. They finished in the top four last season, and it's not like they were that many points off of Arsenal, City for the most part. And obviously, everyone was way off the points for Liverpool. But in Liverpool, once they won the Premier League, they just took their foot off the gas. Like they didn't care too much for the most part. They could have easily scored a lot more and won a lot more games. So let's be real there. But overall, I think the rest of the sides all look fairly close for the most part. And I do believe this year Liverpool is going to just each and every match is going to be a ridiculous match for them. I don't see them having many clean sheets this year just because they're going to be really attacking heavy, and it really could hurt them for the most part. And like I said, they could lose to a smaller side that does hit them on the counterattack once or twice. Very difficult for them sometimes to beat that. So like I said, I think this year it's going to be very close for the most part. Gyökeres, who is he, doesn't hit 15 league goals. I would take that bet that he easily hits over 15. I want to say we're looking at probably like 25 for Haaland, probably 23, 24 for Gyökeres. Like I think these two guys are going to be very close to each other, and most probably going to hit 20 plus, so 21, 22. I wouldn't be surprised by that. But again, if you think about Gyökeres and what Arsenal offer, there's so many good players that Gyökeres, like Arsenal have been missing a striker for how many years? The last proper striker, in my opinion, for them was Aubameyang, and that was back in like 2019. Before again, he obviously his dip and his skill set went really down when he came to Chelsea. But anyways, they haven't had a guy. Saka can easily play a ball to someone. They've been relying on Kai Havertz as their number 9, who, like I said, he's not really a number 9. He's more of that like number 10 or false 9. He can, but he can't play that position for the most part. And you think about some of the other players that he used. They used Mourinho last year at some points because Kai Havertz got hurt. So the fact that they're going to have a proper 9 there now, who is going to have the ball fed to him by not only Saka, it's going to be from Declan Rice, it's going to be from Odegaard, it's going to be probably from Zubimendi. If you look on the left side, I'm not sure if Noni's going to be on that left side starting or if it's going to be a Gabriel Martinelli. They have multiple players that constantly are going to be feeding the ball to him. He's probably going to have at least 10 opportunities each and every match. I'm not going to say they're all going to be high XG rated, but he's still going to have plenty of times to score goals. And like I said, it's just hard not to see him scoring at least 1 or 2 goals almost each and every match, or again, becoming a big person for them to score big goals for them. But yeah, so City, I do want to talk about that, but let me take a drink real quick just because I just rambled on for quite a bit there. Let's see here. Let me see some of this stuff. I still think City and Arsenal have better teams overall. And I mean, I'm not disagreeing with that. I do think they both have better teams, but that doesn't always translate to winning the Premier League. I do think last year, I think Arsenal had the better team than Liverpool, but yet Liverpool won the league. Because if you look at defense for Arsenal, how good they were last year, like Arsenal just absolutely was phenomenal defensively wise. And I think Ray is obviously one of the best goalkeepers, which is why so I think he's still going to get the Golden Glove this year. You look at Saliba, you look at Gabriel, you look at Ben White, Timber, Calafiori, and then MLS. For the most part, they have such like high depth or big depth, or how you even want to say it, with the back line. Like they can definitely rotate multiple players in. Then you look at the midfield. They obviously brought in some big players. Zubimendi, I think, is a great signing for them. But then you look at Declan Rice, who obviously is a great player for them. And then Odegaard in the midfield. You could throw Kai Havertz in there if you wanted to. Nuri, I'm probably mispronouncing his name right now. You can throw him in there. He can play as Odegaard. But then again, like I said, the rest of the side, I think it's a very good side for Arsenal. So like I said, they had a very good team last year. Gravenberch versus Caicedo. I mean, I'm a Chelsea fan, so I have to go with Caicedo. I think he's the best CDM in the league right now. But obviously, I could see if you pick Gravenberch because they did just win the league with him. So again, I'm not going to say both players are phenomenal. All Arsenal need was a striker. All City need was more attacking depth. Chelsea is still behind. I mean, a little bit, but I think Chelsea overall, I mean, they've filled a lot of the voids that they had. You think about it, they were missing a striker last year. Like, think about if we had a proper number 9 or a guy that was competent in front of goal, like Nico Jackson had so many opportunities to score goals last year. And at one point, we were with Liverpool, like head to head, going into, I believe, November, if not December, before the end of the year or end of the month of December. And then we just dropped off. Nico Jackson got hurt, but we didn't have a guy that could really run the front for us. We had to rely on, I'm trying to think who we even relied on, because Nico got hurt, Mark got hurt. I think Pedro Neto was our starting number 9 for a few matches, and again, that made it very difficult for us. And we had a few other players we could rotate in, but like I said, now that we have João Pedro and we have Liam Delap, two players that can definitely find the back net and are very confident in front of goal. So therefore, again, I think Chelsea can easily score a lot more goals. Defensively wise, yes, it could be an issue as well, but I do believe Robert Sanchez does get better again this year, especially after what happened this summer in the Club World Cup. So I do think Chelsea right now is running on like a high confidence. They're going to take that into the season. If they win the first, say, 5-6 matches, which I think is very doable for them, they may, again, draw one or two of those, but they really should win all their matches in the first 5. Like I said, they'll put them at least in the top running for the most part. And like I said, they'll give them a lot more confidence. And I do think Stamford Bridge is going to be a difficult place to go to this year. I mean, most of the time it is difficult, but it has lost that value like it used to have with Jose Mourinho and all the other years that we did really well at Stamford Bridge. And in the last decade or so, it hasn't been the same fortress that it used to be, but I do believe it's going to be better this year. I'm not even a Liverpool Arsenal City fan. Romeo, sorry. I'm not sure who you're talking to. Man will do well. I don't think they'll push 5th, though. I do think, again, United could easily push 5th, but let's talk about Manchester City for a second here, because I do want to talk about them. I feel like I've gotten off topic. So I did put Kudus here as a best signing, but I think Reinert's obviously could be the best signing too. I mean, after watching him play today, it was absolutely phenomenal for the most part. Like, they obviously were missing Kevin De Bruyne last year. Yes, he was still in the squad, but he just wasn't really there for the most part. He picked up a few games where, again, he had a goal or a big assist, but it wasn't the same Kevin De Bruyne we've seen in prior seasons, where I do think Reinert's can be that guy this year for him. He's constantly looking around where players are, and that assist he had to Erling Haaland just shows you, again, his vision, because he wasn't even looking. He just knew that Haaland was going to be running behind him, chopped the ball back, and Haaland obviously just smashed into the back of the net. But overall, what you saw with him, not can he just pass the ball, he can shoot the ball, he can dribble the ball. The first goal they scored, he literally went through the midfield of Wolves. Now, again, you could argue that it is Wolves, so maybe that is a counter point to that. But the way he just dribbled through, then played over to, I believe, Oscar Bob, if I'm not mistaken, or maybe it was Rico Lewis, I can't remember now, who then played it to, again, Erling Haaland. That all came from him. Like, Reiners was definitely a phenomenal player this entire match, which is why he won Player of the Match, which, again, you would think that Erling Haaland would have got for getting a brace, but really, everyone saw how good and how much he dictated that midfield. And I would say that Nico actually did really well too. Gonzalez for City in this match. So I do think those two guys compare really well. Obviously, once Rodri gets fully fit, which I have no idea how long he's going to be out for, he's probably going to slot into the Nico position and play along Reinert's, which I think that's even going to be better for Reinert's, because then he doesn't have to sit back as much. He can even push up more. And then they also have the likes of, say, Shirky, who came on, scored a beautiful goal, but then Phil Foden is hurt right now. He can come back and start playing. Really, City have so many different players. It's going to be very difficult to beat them. I do feel bad that Wolves had to play them right off the bat, because, like I said, I think all these players are just trying to show their worth right now, and they definitely showed it today in this match. So I'm missing a few comments here, so I do apologize here. Yeah, but these players would all start for the promoted sides. I'm not sure who we're talking about. Amazing defense, but his height and short wingspan is why we conceded. Who are we talking about here, by the way? But overall, again, I also thought Trafford played very well for Manchester City. So if you're looking overall at what City did in the transfer window, I think they definitely did a phenomenal job. Hey, brother, excited for the game tomorrow morning up the Chelsea. Yep, we are doing live commentating for the Chelsea match, by the way. So if you are a Chelsea fan, we will be here live doing the entire match. So again, feel free to like and follow this channel. We do almost every Chelsea match that is on the weekend, minus the Friday, Mondays. Those are a little bit more difficult to do. So next Friday, we might catch the second half. I'm not too sure, but I will be at work, so it might be a little difficult. I was talking about Raya. Oh, yeah. Raya, yeah, again, is a very good goalkeeper. But, yeah, Trafford, I think, again, it could be a very good goalkeeper. I do almost feel bad for Ederson. And I don't think they have to go for Donnarumma actually at this point because I think Trafford is going to be the number one goalkeeper for City. And then obviously their back line's pretty good. Yes, they might be lacking a right back for the most part, but I think Ruben Diaz, if he stays fully fit, can be a very good CB for them. And then Gvardiol, who is out hurt this match, once he comes back in fully fit. And then you have Nori on the left side, who's very good going forward, being part of the attacking third. City really are just well rounded for the most part. Who's your bottom three? Bottom three, if you just hopped in here, Joey, would be, and again, no particular order because it doesn't really matter in my opinion, but bottom three would be West Ham, Brentford, and Burnley are the three teams who I do believe are going to get relegated this year. Dan, we play at 3 on Friday. I hate those. Yeah, I feel like Chelsea plays so many matches on Monday and Friday. At least it did last year. I'm not sure what this season looks like for the most part, but it felt like last year it was almost every other week we were playing on a Friday or Monday. Maybe that was because we were in the Conference League. That could have easily been the case just because we played Thursday and they probably tried pushing matches to a Monday, but it just felt like constantly I missed matches because we were playing on a weekday. Who you got winning, Arsenal or United? I made a video on my predictions. So if you haven't seen that video, the entire season we're going to be doing a tally. So each match, and I will answer that question, I have United. But for each and every week, I have a tally going. So +1 if I get the game right, +2 points if I get the right score line, -1 if I get it wrong. And we're just going to keep the tally going for the entire season right now. And I do believe I am +3 right now of all the matches that happened because I think I got the City match correct with a 4-0 win. But I did get the two draws wrong. I thought Brighton, which they were so close to winning today, they let in a goal in like the last 30 seconds, so it was very close to that one. I didn't predict a draw, and then I'm trying to think of the other match I messed up. It was another draw as well. So overall, we're going to keep that tally going, but I do think United win this match, and the reason why I do think United win this match, it's not to go against Arsenal, because I think Arsenal's a very good team. They are playing Old Trafford. Arsenal, if you look at their history as of lately, constantly struggle at Old Trafford. It doesn't matter which team they're playing, and therefore, again, I think United do win this match just because Arsenal, again, struggle at Old Trafford. There's many players right now at United that really do want to show their worth for, I'm going to say, the new manager, even though he was obviously there last year. So because of that, there's just going to be a big high for all these players, the fans there, a new season, new revival season for them, hopefully. And I do think the atmosphere is going to come and really take over the match for the most part. I think Arsenal are going to struggle, and I could see actually United scoring a very early goal. And if that is the case, they could, like I said, win that game. I think I predicted 2-1, but I could see United scoring more goals. And clearly, I could see Arsenal winning this match too, but I do think, again, the atmosphere at Old Trafford is going to play a massive role in tomorrow's match, and that's why I do think United win tomorrow. But it's going to be a great game. I can't wait. United's mid is horrible. I wouldn't say it's horrible for the most part. I mean, if you think about who they actually have, if you're thinking about midfield-wise for United, again, I'm assuming they're going to do probably 3 roughly in the midfield. They could maybe do 4, but you're thinking Bruno in that midfield, which again, he's better going forward, not so much defensive wise. But then I think Ugarte, which might be a weak point, but they could go why can't I not say people's names right now? Manu, I think they could there, or Ahmad in that midfield. So some of those guys, or they go with double pivot with Casemiro and Ugarte. I could easily see those two guys playing together for the first match with Bruno ahead of them because technically they do have Kuna and Bomo and Sesko. I don't know if Sesko is going to start this first match, but like I said, they have those players that could definitely do that. In form, Richarlison, what was that? I want to see. Should start over Solanke. For me, I think Solanke is the better forward for Tottenham. Obviously, what we saw today, it was a big match for Richarlison. That was a phenomenal second goal, and obviously he was a big part in the entire match. I just think Solanke is a better player for them, but if Richarlison keeps playing the way he is, and this is the thing, why I think Tottenham's going to do really well this season is because Thomas Frank gets the best of his players. Like, I don't know why I didn't think about Richarlison being this good under him, because he made Mbomo and he obviously made the rest of Brentford look very good. And not to disrespect Brentford, but the amount of goals they scored last season came from how the manager broke down tactically wise. And Thomas Frank is very good when it comes to tactician. Like, he is very flexible. He did a talk on, I think it was Monday Night Football, or maybe it was on Sky Sports, one of the two. And this is a couple of seasons ago, but he talked about how when he's playing tactics, formations, like he was showing how he moves Brentford up and down and different players he was utilizing. And therefore, again, I think for Tottenham, It's a step up, obviously, for Tottenham. They're playing Champions League, but he definitely has better players at Tottenham compared to Brentford, and that's why I think Kudus is a big step up for them. And I think they probably are still going to get Savinho because Savinho was not technically in the squad today. And I don't think he had an injury, which it seems kind of strange because he was a very good player last year out on the wing for City. You would have thought he would have at least been on the bench. So the fact that he wasn't, I gotta assume something's going through for Tottenham and Manchester City. And then SA could possibly also go to Tottenham. If that is the case, Tottenham could easily push in the top five then. Need to pull an SA and Savinho. I think Savinho does sign for Tottenham probably Monday, Tuesday. I think because he didn't play in today's match, I think it's a big talking point that he probably will be going to Tottenham. And again, I'm surprised because I thought he did very well last season, and I would think that Pep would have wanted to kept him because again, you think about yes, they played Oscar Bob on that right side, but I thought Savinho was just a very good dribbler. Doku is a good player on that left side, but I don't think, again, the end product is really there for him. He's very good at dribbling. He's very flashy, which I definitely love seeing. But there was multiple chances in their match day. Like, the ball was played over the top to Doku, and he just didn't know, like, how to finish the ball. Like, there was at one point, he tried, I think, like, watching the ball come to him, or if he just ran onto and head the ball, it would have been a free header, like, right in front of the six. And he probably should have scored that, but like I said, he just didn't. So I could see Doku being a weak point for City at some point if they do rely on him on the left side. Isse made it clear it's Arsenal or staying at Palace. And I mean, I could see him going to Arsenal as well. That wouldn't surprise me. I mean, if you're thinking about if you're going to play for Arsenal or going to play for Tottenham, I think Arsenal is a better option. That's just my opinion, but who knows? Fabrizio just said he's keen on Spurs. Fabrizio, I feel like, just posts a bunch of stuff nowadays. I mean, not to, again, harp on him too much, but a lot of times I do wonder if he's also pulling the strings on some of the agents and just saying, like, oh, you want to go somewhere? He starts making tweets and everything because it does seem like things come out of nowhere when Fabrizio talks about it. American Talking Football is so annoying. SA is going to Spurs. We already know this. We don't know it, but you never know, I guess. We will be interesting because tomorrow when Chelsea play Crystal Palace, I don't know. So if SA is on his way out and Mark Gahey, if he's also on his way out, both players are not probably playing tomorrow, which will be interesting for Crystal Palace. And because the fact that they're not going to have their captain with Mark Gahey, that's going to be very difficult. But then on top of that, one of their creative midfielders with SA, that's going to be very difficult as well. So Crystal Palace may struggle tomorrow, which, like, again, I think Chelsea are just going to knock it out of the park. Liverpool winning the league, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. They just won it last year. I do think they could possibly go on and win it, but I think their back line might be a heavy issue for them winning it this year. Chelsea will not win the league. We'll see. I mean, we'll see. I think Chelsea can win it, but for the most part, I do think they can do well. Leicester City winning the league, we'll see about that. City look good. I reckon they win the league. I mean, the hard part is the first match. So, again, they played Wolves, and it's hard to say how good they will be against other teams. Without Colwill, Chelsea got no chance. I mean, it is a solid point to bring up with Colwill being out right now because, yes, he was massive for our defense, and the fact that he is out, and Enzo Maresca even came out and said this too, for our backline, like, we cannot play Tosin the way we played Colwill. We can't use anyone else that played like Colwill. Like, Colwill was the perfect, like, CB for us to when we wanted to drop back into a 3 in the back. And we did try other players. I think Tosin was in the Europa League conference, which we let him go right away. And then we also used Badiashile, which we cannot rely on him as a defender if we're doing the back three. If, again, Cucurella pushes up, or whether it's Reece James or Malagusto pushes up, he can't be reliant on that back line. Hato, I think, is a little too early to tell if he can utilize that. It's a shame because I think if Retno Vega would have stayed, I think he's still at the team technically, but if he would have stayed, I think he would have been a really good option for us to overtake for Colwill. As an American, why do you support Chelsea? You're also saying Tosin's name wrong. I'm not sure how you say Tosin. That's how he pronounces it. Anyways, I'm a Chelsea fan because of Michael Ballack, the German player that played for Bayern Munich. So I followed him for the longest time. He was one of my favorite players, and therefore I did really enjoy Chelsea. But on top of that, all my friends were United fans, and I didn't want to be a United fan. So I picked a team that was blue, and they happened to be Chelsea because, again, one of my favorite players started playing for them. Please, no. You also know ball. If we stay in the flow state attack-wise, we get used to the new system. We do amazing. I'm not sure who we're talking about right now. So it's not how you say Tosin. I've met the guy. I know. Oh, okay. Well, I mean, I'm just going off the video where everyone introduced themselves for the Premier League. So I guess he mispronounced it in the video. How many goals and assists do you think Palmer gets in the Premier League this season? Goal wise for Palmer, I think he probably hits, I'm going to be conservative, probably hits 13 goals, but I do think he hits 21 assists this year, which, again, I understand. This is me being delusional as a Chelsea fan, but I do think, for the most part, if you're thinking about the players that we currently have at Chelsea for attacking third, he's going to be able to feed the ball to so many different players. And like I said, because of some of these players, they are going to create so much space for Cole Palmer. Like, tomorrow, watch the match. Like, watch what João Pedro does and how he opens up space or pockets for Cole Palmer. He did in the Club World Cup against PSG, and again, people are going to say it doesn't matter, it was a friendly, but now we're coming to matches that actually matter. You're going to see João Pedro make multiple runs. You're going to see Reece James be very decisive with the ball and how he's going to play it, but then you're going to see Pedro Neto, who does it as well, and then Enzo Fernandez. All these players are really going to just help and again facilitate the ball to Cole Palmer, who then can facilitate to whoever's going to score the goal. Everything usually flows through Cole Palmer. Like, if you watch Chelsea last season, so many times the ball itself went to Cole Palmer. And that's why when he was struggling in December, January, and February, Chelsea also struggled because our creative player couldn't do anything. He was struggling. But once he found form again, we obviously started getting better. And it's the same thing that's going to be this year. Blah, 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 up the gun. You also going to see slow play and sloppy passing from the back as per usual. If you mean from Sanchez, probably. I mean, I do think Sanchez can be, I think he can be the guy for us. He obviously makes mistakes, but he can clearly play the ball and ping the ball directly where it needs to. And he can break multiple lines with his passing. Like, we saw that in our friendlies, but we also saw in the Club World Cup with, again, PSG. Now, yes, like I said, we just talked about friendlies and everything, but if, again, you were seeing him do that in those matches, he can easily do it again this year. And like I said, if we keep the back line fairly solid without any injuries, we can definitely do well. And the other player I forgot to mention was Fofana, who is going to be another CB for us. So, like I said, we have multiple CBs that can definitely play in our back line. And Enzo Maresca, I know, like you said, he wanted to sign one, but it doesn't seem like the board is going to back him and sign anyone. So, like I said, probably stuck with who we have for the most part. What do you think about Newcastle United? Newcastle United, I do think they may struggle if, again, I'm not sure. This is, again, speaking about Isak, so we will get onto the Newcastle topic here. They need to sign someone else that can score goals, because what we saw in today's match, they had multiple opportunities where they should have won that match against Aston Villa. They obviously went up with a man. Newcastle went down, or Aston Villa went down, I think within like, what, the 65th minute, somewhere around there. I can't remember exactly. And they should at least scored one or two goals. Alonga had a great chance in like the first handful of minutes, didn't find the back of net. Anthony Gordon didn't seem like he was the player he was last year. Again, it's the first match. It's hard to say. Anything can happen in the first matches or first handful of matches. But I do think they have to go and buy another striker, because if Isak's not going to play for them, they clearly need someone else to play as a number 9. I don't know if they're going to buy Nico Jackson. There's been rumors for that. But they clearly need to buy someone else, because if Isak's not going to play there, they're not going to find the goals that they need to, again, be where they were this past year. And especially when coming to the Champions League, they're going to struggle then for the most part. They don't have really a whole lot of depth. They've brought in Jacob Ramsey, if I'm not mistaken, from Aston Villa, which he didn't play today. And they also, I think, are in the talks of bringing someone else in for at least the midfield. So midfield-wise, they have some depth, but they don't have any depth in the attacking third. Like I said, Anthony Gordon and Elanga are really their only attacking players that they have. Miley could technically play up there for the most part, but they still need to bring someone else in, especially if Isak does stay. Then yes, they have a little more depth, but I do think he still might leave. Milos Kerkez was proved. What was he proved? That he isn't the best left back, maybe, because I think Cucurella is the best left back. Opinions on Sunderland's win. I'm assuming you just hopped in here, Jack, but we talked about Sunderland a little bit earlier, and I think Sunderland, it's great to see them back in the Premier League. I didn't realize it's been 8 years. It felt like it's only been like maybe 3-4 years, but obviously that's how time works. It just kind of passes you by for the most part, and it was great to watch that match. Like, again, the noise that Sunderland brings, and not to, again, harp on any other teams, but I think Stoke also brings that noise to you when they're going to ever get back to the Premier League. But to see them, it was phenomenal. Obviously, the fans brought the energy as well, because once they scored that first goal, like, the whole, like, stadium went nuts. Like, watching the match, I literally couldn't hear the commentators throughout the entire match after that. And obviously, the way the game went, they won 3-0. They're going to be a difficult team to beat. I think, yes, they may struggle, obviously, in multiple matches, but when they play at home, I think they're still going to be a very hard team to beat. Defensively wise, they're pretty good. And again, I think attacking wise, they may again hit a lot of teams on the counter. It's a shame. I wish Bellingham would have stayed because I was really curious to see how he would have done in the Premier League. Obviously, went to the Bundesliga, but overall, I think Sunderland did quite well in this transfer window. Some of the players they brought in, and they may bring one or two more players in. So I think they did quite well. Bro, Robinson is miles better, miles above Cook. I don't know about that, man. Cucurella just won the year. Well, I shouldn't say just won the Euros. Won the Euros and did so much better for Chelsea in the last handful of seasons. I think people are remembering his first season at Chelsea, how he struggled. But overall, he's a very good player. I think João Pedro cracks the top 3 scorers. I mean, I think he could. My only issue with why I didn't put João Pedro in the top 3 is because he's going to rotate minutes with at least Liam Delap and possibly Pedro Neto, who could play as a false 9 at some point. And he does have the history of being injured, so again, we may not get full 30 games with him, and obviously there's 38 games, but we're going to rotate multiple matches with Liam Delap starting, and maybe Liam Delap plays a full 90, so I could see him scoring, I think, like high double digits, probably like 16, 17 goals. I wouldn't be surprised by that. But like I said, I think he's going to get rotated quite often. And not just with Liam Delap, I could also see like different players that we do rotate in. Whether, again, we push someone else up to take him off, or again, if we want to go more defensively wise, we take him off. But again, we have a lot of wingers as well. So Gins, I think, does start in the first game with Pedro Neto, but then Esteval has to get into the match itself. Then you have to think about some of our other players that want to play. So like I said, it will be very difficult to see. Semenyo, yeah, Semenyo is a great player, and I do regret taking him off my fantasy league. I had him, and then one of my buddies talked me out of taking him out because they played Liverpool, and I thought, you know what, maybe we won't have him for the first week. And I really regret taking him out of my side because we put in Kirkes and Virgil van Dijk instead, and I think Verts to get him in. And yeah, it was a poor decision on my end, but that's what happens with fantasy sometimes. What do you think the best going here best Champions League final? I mean, for me, obviously, the best Champions League final is 2012 against Bayern Munich. I was in Germany for that, so again, that was a phenomenal game to watch. And I mean, a lot of the Germans hated me for that day, but it is what it is. Anyways, who do you think should be our CBs for tomorrow's match? So I was going to make a video for Chelsea on my starting 11. I just never got around to it, so I do apologize. I never made the starting 11 for Chelsea. This would be my prediction, who I think Enzo Maresca should go with. And now, again, this makes it a little difficult, and I probably should write it down for the most part. But Robert Sanchez, obviously, between the sticks. I think Reece James and Cucurella out on the right and left side. I mean, that makes the most sense for me. And then we're almost forced to play Trevor Chalobah on the left side, along with Tosin, just because we have some injuries. Fofana's not fully fit. Shield's not fully fit. Hato could possibly start there, but it does seem like Chalobah is fully fit. So again, I'm not surprised that he's starting. I could, though, see us use Reece James, push him into the CDM role, and use Malo Gusto. So let's say we do that overall, actually, because I think that does give us a little more defensive rate in the midfield. So I'm going to go with that. Malo Gusto on the right side, Reece James, along with, again, I think Caicedo is the best player, so we have to put him right there. And then Enzo actually plays as the 10. Now, I don't really like Enzo as a 10 for us, but I think in this match, like I said, we kind of have to have a better defensive rate for the most part. Cole Palmer out on the right side, and then we're going to have Jamie Gins on the left side, and then João Pedro attacking for us. I think that's probably how we're going to start off, but like I said, if we don't do that, say Reece James doesn't play as a CDM or alongside the double pivot with Caicedo, he's going to play the right back, then Enzo drops down, Cole Palmer plays in the 10, and then probably again, for being realistic, it has to be Pedro Neto on the right side. Esteval is probably going to come in around the 60th, 70th minute, play some minutes, and then Liam Delap probably comes in for João Pedro at some point. But that would be my prediction for tomorrow. That's how I think that Chelsea should roll. I do think, again, we should go a little more defensively wise, just because, like I said, with our back line right now, I don't want to chance it, because if Crystal Palace do hit us on the counterattack early on in the match, it might be very difficult for us to, again, win that. But we'll see. Tosin's out. Oh, they announced it earlier today. I did not realize that. I think this lineup is realistic. So if Tosin's out, I did not realize that. I must have missed it. That happened in training, I guess. If he's out, then my guess is, what's up, Mob Boss? Which fan are you, Mob Boss, by the way? If Tosin's out, then we almost oh man, I guess we have to go with Hato. Let me think about that. If Tosin's out, what makes sense in my head then is that we do Cucurella as our left CB, Malo Gusto on the left side, Reece James on the right. But I don't like that much, just because, again, that could easily leave us hanging dry, and obviously don't want to push Reece James too fully, but we almost have to go that route then. So again, Josh Echepong would be a good shout too, but I don't want to throw him into the mix right off the bat. But yeah, I guess we might have to, or we could do Reece James as the right CB, but I don't fully feel right with him putting in that position. So yeah, it'll be interesting. I must have missed that in today's news for the most part. So we will see what happens. I'm very curious. But that would be my starting 11. So we will see what happens. Chelsea don't have the squad depth and back line to win the league, in my opinion. I got them third. I mean, I think the thing is with Chelsea, I think they do have the depth. It's just right now we have a few injuries, which makes it very difficult for them. But once those players get fully fit, I do think Fofana, again, he's probably one of the best. I shouldn't say best. He's one of the better CBs in the league. The problem with him is just his injury history. He's been so injury prone that we do not get a full season of this. Hopefully this is a season that does a lot better, but we will see. As Hato did play left CB for Ajax. Yeah, and so again, and the nice thing about Trevor Chalobah for Chelsea, he's a Swiss Army knife. The man can literally play in almost every position, especially in the back line. He can play right side, left CB, right CB. He can play as the CDM. The man can play in so many different positions. So we were very fortunate to have him. I have faith in I have faith in Maresca. I just think we need a long-term solution. Possibly, we'll see though. Easy City win the treble this season. The squad looks way more energetic and proven academy players. I mean, City did look phenomenal today. I'm not gonna lie. And I do like watching City. Not that I'm a City fan, but watching City play, it's just, I think Pep I think Pep has broken his very systematic type of style, and that actually, I mean, give me 1 second here. If again, small little shout out to the book I wrote here, How to Win Like Pep Guardiola. So again, if you do ever want to read a book about Pep's tactics, I wrote a book. It's on Amazon. You can buy it or you can get it on Kindle. It's totally free. But I think Pep is really going to rely on some of the creativity now this year. If you think about who he's got out on the wing, we have. When I say weeds, I'm not a City fan, but they have Doku on the left, who obviously can dribble, do one-on-one. They have Oscar Bob on the right side, but then inside the midfield, for the most part, I think Shirky is definitely going to play a lot more minutes this year. Reinhardt's, the man's phenomenal, and then whether it's Rodri, if he does get fully fit, but even Nico Gonzalez can play this position. All three of those guys are very creative. Where again, Jack Grealish, not to discredit him, obviously was a guy that was just back passing for the most part. And like I said, I think this year they're going to be heavy attacking. I think they're just going to go at teams and just try to score as many goals as possible. I think because last year they sat back a little too much, or again, they tried just being very systematic about it. Teams are very good as of lately just holding their lines and not really moving too much. Where again, if you have a guy that can drive the ball, it does alter how players are going to play for the most part, because once, say, a Doku beats a defender, it opens up different channels, because now another defender has to come over. You start sliding the ball at different positions and you move it very quickly. It makes it very difficult to defend. And like I said, I think Pep is working on something along those lines. He's always constantly doing something different with his tactics. So again, it will be very interesting. If Tottenham sign SA, they will get top five. I think Savinho is more likely to sign for Tottenham. And the reason why I say that is just because what we saw today, he wasn't even on the bench. He's out injured, which he didn't have a report of an injury until today or yesterday. And therefore, I think they are in the final process of signing him, which he's going to be a phenomenal signing for Tottenham. I think it's going to be very difficult for Tottenham then when you have to play them, because you're going to have to deal with Kudus, Savinho, and then whether it's Charleston or Solanke up front. Like I said, they have so many different players, so there's a lot of teams that can do quite well. Doku and Oscar Bob, so I want to see this, look phenomenal. Shirky should start when it comes to difficult matches. The problem with Shirky, and again, the problem with the City, though, is that they have so many different players. So you're thinking about, again, Phil Foden has to fit into the system at some point. Rodri also has to fit into the system. And then, well, they don't have McAtee anymore. He went to Nottingham Forest, so that makes more sense. But then you're thinking about there's one other midfield I'm blanking on right now that they have to all fit into their position. Omar Mouche, that was the other guy. Technically, he's a midfielder who didn't start for this match. So like I said, they have multiple different players. They have to almost jam into this system, which makes it very difficult. But Pep Guardiola, knowing him, he's definitely going to figure it out and make it very difficult for teams to beat City. So like I said, I wouldn't be surprised that City do push for the top for the title this year. If Foden actually scores and plays good, they'll win everything. I mean, obviously, yeah, Phil Foden, when he was the player of the season 2 years ago, they just were absolutely smashing on the park each and every week. So therefore, like I said, if Phil Foden comes back to his normal form, I don't know if last year he was dealing with an injury for the most part. It is hard to say, just because I think the Euros, then leading in. I don't know if he ever really had a full break, and therefore again it made a huge problem for Phil Foden. And like I said, he's not the only one that's been dealing with this because we've seen a lot of other players. There's just so many games being played. Teams and players don't get full rest now, so therefore again it leads to more injuries. But overall, like I said, I think if Phil Foden is fully fit, he's a very good player and can definitely help City win multiple matches. Um, so, anyways, yeah, where we're going here. Um, Hopefully Pep can make City lock in it this year. I mean, hopefully not, but I'm assuming you're a City fan, or at least I believe you're a Barcelona fan. Seeing your name there, Yamal. But I mean, I'm always hoping for just a fun year, but I do hope that Chelsea obviously go on and win it. But I do like it when it's very competitive. So again, I and we've seen now City and Liverpool go back and forth with this in the last, I think, 8 years. Because I did a video on this a couple days ago where it talked about that if you're looking at the title race for the last, I don't know, like 8 years, I think it's maybe 9 years now, it's been literally Liverpool or City. That's it. Chelsea's literally the last team to win it, which was back when Conte was our manager, and the year before that was Leicester. Otherwise, it's been literally City, Liverpool. So I'm hoping someone else wins it this year. Not hoping that it's Arsenal. I'm hoping that it's Chelsea. But obviously, anyone can go and win it this year. I think it's going to be a very good season for the most part. But overall, I think, like I said, if you're looking at the top five, I think the top five again is all gonna be very close. I think when you're thinking about who can win those matches, I think Chelsea can beat any of these teams. I think City can beat any of these teams. I think Liverpool. So again, it all is gonna come down to these head-to-head matches, where it's gonna make it very difficult for the most part. Realistically, which CB can Chelsea purchase if they only sell Nkunku? I mean, there's a possibility that they do buy Mark Gahey from Crystal Palace because they have a buy-on clause with it, so they could technically lower the price itself, or say that they'll wipe that buyback clause, and therefore again Crystal Palace could get more off of him. If we're looking at any other players, I mean, it's hard to say because we are getting closer to the end of the window, and the problem is with a lot of teams, they don't really want to sell their players when it's this close to the window because then it leaves them hanging dry for the most part because they don't have any depth. And Crystal Palace obviously have the Conference League this year, so maybe they don't want to sell anyone. It's difficult. So I'm not even sure who they would really go for because you have to have the right CB. It's not like if there's a CB available, we have to have a guy that can play on the left side, but also drop into a back three. So we need to have a guy that can play those roles because if we do have a guy like that, then it helps out. But if there's not a guy available, it doesn't make sense for us to go and buy another CB that's going to play more on the right side because we have already multiple players that can play there for the most part. But that's why. I think the board was telling Enzo Maresca that it's probably not going to happen just because there's probably no one out there that the sporting director or any of our scouts are seeing that they think can play the exact same thing. Now, Enzo Maresca is probably looking at that, hey, we just need another guy in our line. But overall, if there's not a guy available that plays what we need, it doesn't make sense to buy that guy then. It's just another guy on wages for the most part sitting on the bench. But we'll see what happens tomorrow for Chelsea. So again, just going to throw it there. I do live commentating for Chelsea, so if you are new here, we're going to be doing the live tomorrow for the match. Probably kick it off like maybe 10 minutes before the match starts, but like I said, we will be watching the game live and doing commentating here. So again, if you are new here, definitely like and subscribe because, like I said, we do commentating for the matches. I have Bruno, Palmer, Salah, Semenyo, Reinert's midfield, and Ekatike and Pedro attack opinion. I'm assuming you're talking about FPL, and that's a pretty good FPL side if that's who you have for the most part. I wish I would have kept Semenyo. I have Reinert's in my team. Ekatike obviously would have been a good player to have, and Pedro I think is going to be a good player as well. So it's a pretty good team. I'm just curious what the rest of your team looks like then if you have all those players in because obviously you spent a lot for Bruno, Palmer, and Salah in your team, and that's going to take up most of your points. I know Reinert's was only like 5.5 for the most part. Who do you have going down? Tag, you're it. Who I have going down, again, in my opinion, it could really be a bunch of teams, but at the end of the year, I think it's going to be West Ham. I think it's going to be Brentford, and I do think it's going to be Burnley. Now, I do think, again, two of the three teams can stay up. I do think Burnley could still stay up as well, so we could see all three promoted teams staying up like we did, 4 years ago with Nottingham. I'm blanking on all those teams, or Nottingham, Fulham, and someone else. Just because I think Burnley actually is a pretty good team defensively wise. Now, again, I think Scott Parker does struggle in the Premier League as a manager, so therefore, again, it could be a little difficult for them. But again, if he can get his defensive rate working like he did in the Championship, they could be a very hard team to beat. And like I said, I do think Leeds is a very good team. And then Sunderland, by themselves, we just saw today how good of a team they can be, and obviously the investments they've made for their side. I think they are going to be a very difficult team for teams to beat. So those two teams, again, Leeds and Sunderland, I think do stay up no matter what. But then you look at what West Ham have currently right now. Like, they have to rely on Jared Bowen, and if Fulcroy is another guy they could see scoring goals, but he's just struggled so much for so long at West Ham, and I think he was injured for most of the season last year, so maybe that was part of it, because he's a very good goal scorer. I mean, he does well for the German national team. He's a very good player for the Mannschaft, but for some reason, it's just not working well for West Ham, and they don't have the guys that are going to facilitate the balls to them. I think I'm gonna mispronounce his name, Duff from West Ham could also be a good signing for them. But overall, I think West Ham are going to struggle, and that's for why I think they're going to go down. Brentford losing again their main spine, again losing their goalkeeper, losing their captain with Nogard, and Bomo and possibly Visa, and then obviously Thomas Frank makes it difficult. And then Burnley, we just mentioned that they could go down because they might not score enough goals for the most part. Defense is Rico Lewis, that's good. VDV also good. Drogu and Sells. I mean, that's a pretty good team. I would think you're going to probably be in the top 10 this week. I mean, it's hard to say each and every week, but I think you're going to do quite well for this first week. I wish, again, I would have made some different changes or not had my friends talk me out of some of them. And also, I did a live here, so some people talked to me about who I should sign and not sign for my FPL. So, again, went back and forth on that. Bro, no, we are not sliding past Chelsea first. Again, I think Chelsea have the capability of finishing first. If you think about, again, if you look at Chelsea's squad, if you look at their left back, Cucurella, arguably the best left back in the world. Reece James, fully fit, probably one of the best right backs in the world. Now, obviously, Colwell being out injured now makes a huge blow for Chelsea. But prior to that, I think they would have done really well with him. But I do think Trevor Chalobah can easily play into that role and still be a very good player for us. Now, the right CB, I think that's where it gets questioned. But if Fofana is fully fit, I think him and Trevor Chalobah can play very, very well together. Now, he's not fully fit right now for the next match or this upcoming match, so he won't be there. But then you think about Moise Caicedo. He's arguably the best CDM in the entire world. So, again, we have three world-class players that kind of hover or shield our defense for the most part. And then I would say Enzo Fernandez is a very good midfielder, obviously World Cup winner, and he's getting better and better for us. Cole Palmer is one of the better players in the Premier League itself. So if you look at what Chelsea actually have to offer, those guys by themselves are going to be very good for us. Then we signed João Pedro, who obviously can be a very good goal scorer for us. I think he's going to be phenomenal this season for Chelsea. And then I think Esteval is going to be very good on that right side. But Pedro Neto is still a very good player too. That he goes under the radar for the most part. He was a very good player at Wolves. He's a very good player at Chelsea. And even Jamie Gins on the left side, I think, again, is going to be a very good player. I think a lot of people are almost sleeping on him because they're like, oh, he played in the Bundesliga. He's not going to be that good of a player. But when you watch Jamie Gins play, you're going to watch how good of he is, like dribbling the ball and how he can take on players one-on-one. And he's going to be very difficult to defend. And because he's going to be able to do all that, he's going to be able to, again, make a lot of chances for different players for Chelsea, and Chelsea are probably going to score a lot of goals. Chelsea only has one world-class player. I'm assuming you mean by one world-class player, you mean that is Moise Caicedo, or is that Enzo Fernandez, the World Cup winner, or is it Reece James, or Cucurella, or Cole Palmer? Because I think all those players would be considered world-class, in my opinion. And why I have to say world-class, I mean, I think that gets thrown around quite a bit. They are arguably the best players in the Premier League, because if you look at other leagues, you could argue some of the players, but I think Chelsea have one of the best midfield. Like, if you look at Cole Palmer, Enzo Fernandez, and Moise Caicedo, that trio is one of the best midfield in the Premier League. I think it's hard to beat that, and we've seen them do very well. And most teams, like I said, win matches in the midfield. Who do you have going down? I should have just put who I had going down. I should have added that so people know. West Ham, Brentford, and Burnley are the teams that are going down. That's who I think. João Pedro will have 30 goals contribution. Chelsea need to sign. Is he available in Brentford? I thought he was also out injured, if I'm not mistaken. I thought David Moyes came and said he was hurt because I thought there was a leak saying that he's out hurt because I think they were actually trying to sell him, and because there's been an injury report to him, I don't think teams are now touching him for the most part. So I don't know what that means for Everton for the most part, because I think they were trying to offload him because he was trying to leave last year, and I can't remember exactly why he didn't leave or why he wasn't let go. But it does seem like he will be there again this season, or at least this transfer window. I don't think he leaves because I think he is hurt for the most part. And even if he was hurt, it would come up on the medical testing for the most part. So again, it's not like they would have pulled a fast one on anyone. He has 1 year left in his contract. Oh, maybe that's what it was then. Which so if he's so he would leave on a free transfer next year then, which that would be big for Everton because if you're looking at PSR or yeah, PSR FFP, that is a big thing for them because Everton really aren't able to sell too many players, so they can't buy more and more players. Like that's the problem, especially with like Newcastle and Fulham for the most part. They obviously like sell players, but they don't sell them for much, which makes it very difficult. First guy after sacked will be Daniel Fark. I mean, I could easily see that happening too. I know there's been talks about they were ready going to let him go before the season even started. So I think he almost has to go out and win the first handful of matches because if he does lose maybe the first 2 out of 3 matches, they're probably like, it's time and just send him for the most part, which again is shocking because he did so well with them last year. I must have missed what happened. There must have been some backroom drama because the fact that they did so well last year, Leeds in the championship, that they want to get rid of this manager is quite ridiculous because you'd think the guy did so well, you'd at least give him a couple months to do something, but it doesn't seem like that's going to be the case. But I do think, again, if he wins the first handful of matches, they play Everton, I could see them being Everton. If he wins the next match after that, then they're kind of going to give him some leeway for the most part. Man United fifth is insane, and Chelsea winners is also dumb. Thanks, Derek. But I do think Manchester United are a very good team. I think obviously they're going to do a lot better this season. It's very difficult to say that they would do as bad as they did last year, especially now that Ruben has had a full summer with these players, a preseason. Now, did they look terrible during the preseason? Yes, but it's a friendly, and therefore, again, I think bringing Sesko into this mix is going to be a big up for them. I don't think Hoyland was the guy they could really rely on. Xerxes could have been the guy for the most part, but I do think they brought in Sesko just to, again, have more competition in their attacking part, because if you have multiple guys that want to play, whereas, like I said, Hoyland didn't really have anyone pushing him. They had Rashford for the most part, and not like Rashford was doing his best to try to get into the starting 11. Like, he was just collecting a paycheck for the most part. And the fact that he's going on to Barcelona just still blows my mind. Like, I'm not sure how he made that move or how that exactly happened. But I do think, again, having Kuna out on the left side is going to be very difficult to defend, and Boma's going to be very difficult to defend. And if we're looking at possibly, like I said, Bruno Fernandes may have a very good season this year. I think, like I said, United can do very well. Leeds won't win a game this month. I mean, we'll see. Actually, I'm kind of curious now that you say that. Who does Leeds all play? Because I'm kind of curious. Let me just pull up Leeds fixtures for the most part. So I hope this doesn't mess up my live here. So they play Everton, then they play Arsenal, which, yeah, I think Arsenal do beat them. I'm not going to say they don't. But then they play Newcastle. I think they can beat Newcastle. So technically they have 3 matches in August. So it's hard to say that they don't win any games because it is only 3 matches and one against Arsenal. So I do think they do beat Everton. I think they can beat Everton. Obviously, Everton's a better side. They're having a new stadium now, and then David Moyes is obviously still a good manager, but I do think they can beat Newcastle too. So I think they can, or they can at least draw. So out of those 3 matches, I could see them getting 4 points. I wouldn't be surprised if they get 4 points out of 3 matches. But I could also see, again, if they didn't get any points off the first 3 matches, I also wouldn't be surprised either. Like, that wouldn't surprise me. They have no midfield or defenders as well as a keeper. I would disagree. I mean, I think midfield-wise, I think United is actually pretty good this year. I think De Ligt is definitely going to be a very good player this year. I think last year it just took some time for him to get into the system, but they were also trying to play Erik ten Hag's type system in the beginning of the year. That didn't work out. They brought Ruben in, and like I said, it took some time for them to actually get back into his system. But you look at Martinez, who actually, he might be out right now. Dorgu, who's actually pretty good. Euro is pretty good. And then you're thinking about some of the other wing-back players that they can actually use. Dalo is also a good player. So they have a pretty good back line for the most part. Yes, Onana is kind of questionable for a goalkeeper, but Heaton's also a very good goalkeeper. So they have a few players that they can actually utilize. Hard to see Man United beating out Newcastle, Aston, and Spurs. I mean, Newcastle, I think, is going to struggle. If they don't have a proper number 9, they're not going to score a lot of goals, and therefore, again, it's going to be very difficult for them to win matches. Can they, win games? Yes, but like I said, we saw it today against Aston Villa. They should have won that match. They were a man up for almost a half hour, and they couldn't find the back of the net. And it's not to say that, again, that Aston Villa's not a bad team, but Newcastle should have won that match. So that's where they're going to struggle. Mazraoui is a clear, and he's not good defensive, just like Dalot. Yeah, Mazraoui, he's also hurt though, but I think he's a good player. I think overall, again, if you're just comparing last year for United fans or for United players, it's difficult because they obviously played. Everyone played poorly last year, but if you think how well he played at Bayern Munich, he did very well in the Bundesliga. And now, yes, again, I understand it's the Bundesliga, but overall, I think he's a good player that he can do very well. And like I said, it's going to be building confidence. They're going to do better and better for the most part. What did someone say here? I'm going to back here. What do you mean all two-thirds roadside stay up? Um, oh, I didn't realize I missed. Yeah, I did at one point think that maybe all three, so that's probably why I had all. Two two of the three teams stay up. That all shouldn't be there. I guess I didn't even realize I had a little typo there. I do think the Leeds and Sunderland stay up though. Who's ever asking that question? Let me see here. Where do you have Spurs finishing? I think Spurs can finish, and again, this is saying who they still sign yet. Because if Spurs go out and buy Savinho, they get SA. They could easily push top six. They could do quite well. Even currently, right now with Thomas Frank, I think they do have the capability of still finishing in the top six, but I think it's gonna be a little difficult. But again, Richarlison, Solanke, I think are both very good players. It's a shame that James Madison got hurt because had James Madison not got hurt, he would have been very, very good this season. Like he would have been feeding balls left and right to all the players. So the fact that he did get hurt, massive blow to him and obviously Tottenham. And then they lost Son, which again, that's another blow that they have for the most part. But I think Kudus is a very good player. We saw it today in today's match. 2 assists overall, very creative player. I know. Again, I think he could be the best signing this year because if he is given the freedom with Thomas Frank and with Tottenham, he can do a lot this year, and not just with assists, but he can find himself inside the box and find the back of that. So again, it's going to be very difficult for again teams to beat Tottenham, and I do think they are going to be a little better defensively wise. They're not going to play such a high line like they did last year with Pasacaglu, and therefore again they should be able to keep more clean sheets. And Vicario is definitely a good goalkeeper. Like overall, he keeps them in games. At least he did last year, and this year because they're going to have a better defensive line, he should be again able to keep a lot of clean sheets. Which I could see him actually competing for the Golden Glove this year too. I wouldn't be surprised if he's up there in the ranking with that. But overall, I think Tottenham are a very good team this year. And I think a lot of teams are actually very good this year. So that's why, again, I think this year is going to be very difficult for any team. Sunderland lost Joby. That's a huge hit. Yeah, they did lose Bellingham, but I think because they lost Bellingham, they were still able to bring in definitely more players, which, again, I wish Bellingham would have stayed just at least one more year at Sunderland. I wanted to see him play in the Premier League, but it made sense for him to move on because obviously he's trying to use, or he did use Sunderland as a stepping stone to get to the next team. Then he's probably going to go from the Bundesliga, probably follow his brother's footsteps and go into La Liga, or maybe he does come back to Premier League, but I could easily see him staying in the Bundesliga for a couple of years. Leeds versus Everton, I'm going to pick Leeds for that first match. I do think it's going to be a very good match, but I could see it ending a draw as well, though, too. But I'm going to pick Leeds for the most part, even though my video, I think I did pick a draw. I think I picked a 0-0 draw for that match. LeBron or Michael Jordan? I'm old, so I'm going to pick Michael Jordan. But LeBron's, longevity is obviously something you have to give him credit for. Liverpool are so much better than Chelsea. It's not even funny. They let Bournemouth score 2 goals on them. And if it wasn't for, again, in the dying moments of that game for Chiesa and Mohamed Salah to score those goals, they could have drawn to Bournemouth in the opening match. So again, Liverpool have their flaws this year. They just bought a few other CBs, and Joe Gomez can obviously step into that role, but I think Konate might be a problem for them this year. I think obviously Virgil van Dijk's still a very good player, but there's a possibility that he may have lost a step. At some point, you got to assume that he's going to be losing a step. I hate to say it, but again, with his age, it's going to happen sooner or later. And maybe it doesn't happen this year. Maybe, again, he's just trying to get his rhythm with the players around him, which is totally fine because, like I said, he now has Kirkis on his left side. They have Frimpong on the right side. So, again, they are leaving that team a little more exposed, whereas obviously years before that, he knew exactly what to expect from Robertson and obviously Trent Alexander-Arnold. Those two guys, again, Trent Alexander-Arnold's not there anymore. Robertson's not the same player. So, like I said, he now is trying to figure that out, which could be very difficult. What's your opinion on Reinhardt in the opening game? Reinhardt was phenomenal. That match today for Reinhardt was just ridiculous for what he was able to do. And yes, it was against Wolves. So, again, maybe He may not do that each and every week, but overall, I mean, that was a phenomenal first match for him in the Premier League, which again, I've been harping how good this man can actually be. And partly the reason why I think that is because, what's her name? Stunt Peg, I think is her name. She's mentioned and talked about him a few times. And when I heard her talk about him, and this is like beginning of last season, I was like, oh, I'll check the guy out for the most part. And then I started watching AC Milan, and just watching what he was doing in the midfield was ridiculous. And like I said, he's easily going to be able to do that in the City squad because there are so many other players around him that he doesn't have to be the sole creator for the most part, but his vision is very, very good. But not only top of that, he can dribble the ball, but strike a ball very well. So he's very well rounded for the most part, and he's even very good defensively wise. Now he's not the best at winning the ball back, but he's still able to do that for the most part. I think he won the ball back quite a few times, but him pairing with Nico was actually pretty good today. And I do think once Rodri does come back, I think it's even make Reinhardt even that much better because Rodri is such a good player. And maybe won't be the player he was before his injury, but if he is, that gives Reinhardt so much more freedom because Rodri can cover that entire midfield by himself. And so if Reinhardt's able to push up higher and higher and again be more creative, it's going to be very difficult for people to beat City. Let me go to some of these comments here. Sorry, because I was just going off a tangent on City. You for real think Gyökeres outscores Salah? Yes, I think Mohamed Salah will still score 20 goals, but the problem, I shouldn't even say it's a problem because it's not a problem for Liverpool. Liverpool have so many different players that are going to score goals this year. Like Ekitike is going to score goals. You also have Wirtz who's going to score goals. Then you have Cody Gakpo who's going to score goals. Mohamed Salah is going to score goals. Like they have so many different players that are going to come on and score goals. Like Mohamed Salah is going to score goals, but he's also going to assist quite a bit. And like I said, at some point, if they're winning the match, they're probably going to take off Mo and bring on a different player. Maybe he does play the full 90 for almost the entire season, but I can't imagine, especially him getting a little bit older, they're probably going to try to conserve some of his energy, especially for Champions League. So like I said, if Liverpool are like winning crazy by like 2-3 goals, I could see Mohamed Salah coming off a lot. They bring in Rio or trying to think who else they have on that right side that they can bring in. So I could see him not getting the full 90 each and every week. And like I said, because of that, I don't think he then scores as many goals as he has the last couple of seasons. But overall, he's still going to score goals. Like, again, I'm not saying that because he's third, he's not scoring goals. I just think Haaland is obviously going to just absolutely smash out the park. He's already had a brace. And like I said, I could see him scoring high 20s, if not like low 30s. I think Gyökeres probably hits 20-ish goals, maybe 23, 24. And I think Mo's like around 20, 21. And maybe he does pass up Gyökeres. I wouldn't be surprised. But again, I think these three guys are going to be very close for the most part. But that's why. Chelsea are not winning the league. I mean, I'm delusional. Obviously, we got Chelsea right here. So, again, I got to say they're going to win. I would feel like I'm not a true fan if I don't believe Chelsea can win it because after watching them play live multiple matches at the Club World Cup, they were phenomenal. And yes, I understand it's a Club World Cup. People, if they weren't in it, don't really praise the Club World Cup. But if you were in it, I think most people did see how good it was. And again, we saw teams that really did struggle against other teams, whereas Chelsea did quite well throughout the entire tournament. They were able to beat PSG. PSG beat Liverpool. They beat Aston Villa. They beat Arsenal. The fact that we could beat them means that we can beat any of those guys any given day. So therefore, again, I think Chelsea can win it. But obviously, it is a marathon when it comes to Premier League. So it's not just 1 or 2 games you have to win. You have to just continue that striving to win each and every match. And I do think we have the depth to do it, though, too. What's your thoughts on Cherki? 30 million will look cheap by the end of the year. Yeah, I mean, I think Cherki going for 30 million had to do something with Lyon. With their financial issues, like it's remarkable that he only went for 30 million because he should have easily went for more. Like think about like 30 million, what that buys you from anyone else in the Premier League. Like it gets you like a squad B player or an academy player. Like I'm trying to think, Chelsea sold, why can't I think who it is right now, for 30 million. I want to say it was Ian Madsen last year to Aston Villa for like 33 million. And if you're comparing Madsen to Cherki, it's ridiculous. Like Cherki's definitely that much better of a player. And that again, Ian Madsen's a good player, but he's not to Cherki's level. Like he's that much better. And he can absolutely hit a ball beautifully. Like we even saw it today, and he will do that constantly throughout his entire time at City. But anyways, sorry, there's 51 comments. I do apologize I didn't get to all those comments. I will try to get to some of these, so put them in again. Hutchinson, was that the other guy that we sold? Is going for 37 million. But the problem with Hutchinson, though, is that he went from Ipswich to now. Did he go to Nottingham Forest? Is that where he went? But anyways, he went from Ipswich to another team. So again, he went from a championship, which there was probably some type of clause in him selling that again he could only go for so much, or they could only get so much. Which I mean, that's sometimes hard when someone gets why relegated? My brain wasn't thinking right there. When a team gets relegated, a lot of those players definitely have something in their contract. Once they get relegated, they have like a release clause, or they can be bought out for a lot cheaper for the most part. This has to be rage bait. Americans, I know. Americans every time coming on here. Thoughts on Lucas Bergvall? I think he's a very good player too. I think last year was a very good season for him. I think he's going to be this much better this year. The only thing with Bergvall, I could see the issue is that he could also rotate minutes at some point. Because I'm trying to think now who actually started for Tottenham today. And I don't know if Bentancur, if he did start today or not. I'm blanking out if he did or not, because if Bentancur starts, he could rotate with him. And on top of that, I could see Kudus playing into the midfield as well if they do bring Esse or Savinho. Again, they have to start rotating some of those players for the most part. So again, he could have a good season, but he also may rotate quite a bit of minutes. Gotcha. I'm not sure what that was going to say. I was trying to read that. Hutchinson for 30 million is crazy when Barcelona buy options for Rashford is 20 million. I still can't believe Rashford's going to be playing for Barcelona. Where do Tottenham end up? I think they end up in the top 6 possibly. Correct. Nottingham Forest, Chelsea will get top 6 or will get 6 million. Oh yeah, that's right. And that's the thing too. Like when people talk about PSR, FFP for Chelsea, they have a lot of players that again they've already left, and Chelsea get a kickback. Like Mark Gay, if he goes to Liverpool, we get a kickback for him. I think we got a kickback for another player last year, and not that I mean 6 million is obviously 6 million. Like I don't have 6 million in my bank, but if I did, that'd be nice. But it still adds up over time, and this is why Chelsea again do quite well when it comes to the transfer market. Because even when we sell players or we again let them go, then they get sold again. Like we still get hit for that again, which is super nice for when we're trying to make other deals. So again, I think Chelsea still, again, this is me talking about transfer now. I'm jumping back and forth here. I think we're still trying to get Xavi Simons in. So therefore, again, if that goes through, we sell Nkunku. I think we still then bring in Xavi Simons for the most part, because we do need another player that can play like Cole Palmer, and I do think he can play that role for him. Or at some point, we do play like 2 10s in certain matches depending on who we're playing, and then we play João Pedro in front of that. That's going to be a light. Like I cannot wait to see if that does happen for the most part. But maybe we don't go for Xavi Simons. Maybe we go for someone else. But it all depends for the most part. Where do you think Everton will place this year? I think I had. I'm trying to think of my video I made. I think I had Everton sitting around like 15th, 16th, somewhere around there. They're going to be above relegation, but I do think they're going to be hanging a little bit lower for the most part this year. I'm just not sold on Beto as their striker. Maybe he does score a lot of goals, but I think that's another issue, and that's been, I mean, Everton's problem for so many years. I mean, DCL, I mean, obviously he's been injured for so many years, and now he's not there anymore, but they just have struggled having a guy that can score goals from him. Like, I'm trying to think, I think the last time they really had an out-and-out striker that really was great for them was Samuel Eto'o, which, again, saying that doesn't even make sense in my head that he played for them, but he was a great striker, and obviously he did well for them. And I mean, when you think about who they've had since then, it hasn't been that great. So like I said, Everton need to bring in a better striker, but I don't think they're really going to be able to bring in anyone this year, so that's going to be their big downfall. I mean, defensively wise, David Moyes is very good defensively wise, so I think he'll do well there. But I see Everton just drawing a lot of matches this year, and yes, they'll win a few games, but they're going to lose a lot of games too. But they'll get those draws when they need to, and those will add up over the season. And like I said, get them over the hump, not get relegated for the most part. It was Bergvall, Gray, and Sarr. Oh yeah, Sarr. That's who it is. That it was a great signing for Tottenham too, or he's been doing well, I should say, because he was bought last year or 2 years ago. But he's definitely stepped up as well, Sarr, for Tottenham. So again, it will be interesting to see how long they again keep that core three in the midfield for the most part. Because Bazuma, I don't know exactly what happened with him with Tottenham, but it seems like there's been some off the pitch issues with him, and I'm not sure if it's between him and Thomas Frank or him and the organization, but he is a good player if he does play. And like I said, Bentancur is also a good midfielder as well. Why Chelsea? I mean, I've been a Chelsea fan for 20 years now. It really started because Michael Ballack went there. He's my favorite player, but also a lot of my friends were United fans. And like I said, they were United fans. I didn't want to be United fan, so I picked the opposite color. So they were all red. I went blue, and I went with Chelsea. I mean, obviously could have picked a few other blue teams, but I just went with Chelsea, and so happened to be that's the team I went with. And it was the year that Abramovich took over, and we all know how that went. So I was fortunate if I bought into the team or got into the team right before they started winning everything they did. Eto'o scored 5 goals for us, and Lukaku scored 27. What are you on about? You know what? Maybe I'm being biased on Eto'o. I thought he scored more than 5 goals, but I guess not. Yeah, Lukaku obviously was phenomenal. I mean, he did ridiculously well at Everton, but I thought Eto scored more goals than that. But I guess maybe it's just me thinking of Eto being a great player, all the other players or all the other clubs he played at. So maybe I'm just throwing him into that mix. I think he did really well there. I've been Chelsea since Zola days, so you got me beat. I mean, Zola's obviously before I was real big into football. I mean, for the most part, I mean, I know who Zola is, obviously, but I mean, I was watching the World Cup in '98, but I wasn't following the Premier League at all because where I grew up, the Serie A was where you wanted to watch it in the Bundesliga. So I really liked Bayern Munich as well for the most part, which is also another team I really enjoy. I have a few jerseys, but obviously supporting Chelsea. You think Man U will end up higher than Tottenham? Curious as to why. The reason why I think they're going to end up higher is just because they only have one match each and every week. So therefore, Ruben Amorim has plenty of time to understand and have his tactics like laid out all week long. And that makes a huge difference compared to Tottenham, who are going to have at least one or two matches each week, especially when it comes to Champions League. That's going to be difficult. Then you throw in traveling with that as well. I think that's where it's going to be very difficult for Tottenham to, again, keep pace in the Premier League because they may lose focus on the Premier League, put more focus in the Champions League, and it might be very difficult for them. Whereas, again, United really can only focus on the FA Cup and the league itself. And therefore, with the players they brought in, I think they can do quite well because, again, Ruben's a very good manager. I know he did bad last year at United, but I think anyone that would have came in would have struggled. I think this year is definitely going to show you how good of a manager he is. And like I said, I think some of the players are going to play very well for him. With Charleston, 15 goals season incoming. I mean, we will see, Nick. I have a hard time believing Richarlison scores 15. I mean, obviously he had a brace today, but Richarlison is one of those guys. He can show up banging a bunch of goals and then not show up for like 4 or 5 matches. And when that happens, you kind of don't have to play him then. And I think Solanke's still going to be a very good player for Tottenham. Do you think Anthony should go back to the Premier League? I think Anthony's still in the Premier League. Or did he get loaned out again? Because I thought he's back at United. Same with Jadon Sancho. So I think both those guys are there right now. So I don't know if they're actually going to be leaving for the most part. If they are, I'm not sure exactly where they're going, but I do think, like I said, they're going to be there for the most part because of the wages. It's hard to, again, have those guys leave just because they get paid so much at United. Like, United made a mistake of putting so much on the table for both those guys, even Mason Mount. Like, it doesn't make sense why Mason Mount makes as much as he does for United. Do you think Anthony? I just read that one. Richarlison, Ballon d'Or. We will see about that. If Richarlison, I mean, I'd have no tattoos, but if Richarlison were to win the Ballon d'Or, I would debate about making a bet with one of my friends that's a Tottenham fan. I would get a tattoo of that, but I doubt I would because I don't have any tattoos. What are your thoughts on Savinho to Tottenham? I think Savinho is definitely going to Tottenham. I could easily see the news breaking on Monday morning that he like the here we go from Fabrizio just because he didn't play today and wasn't even on the bench for City. I think because of what's been going on behind the scenes, I gotta assume he's on his way out. Just because I think if he wasn't, he would at least been on the bench today because Pep used him quite often last year. He could have easily been used today because Oscar Bob coming back from last year with the leg injury that he had. I think, like I said, they could have rotated some of those players in. And maybe there is a big injury, but I don't recall seeing anything. It just I had him in my fantasy, and then it said something that he picked up an injury. So again, I assume he's on his way out, and I think he's gonna be a very good signing for Tottenham. I do see that could be very difficult for Matisse Tell, though. I'm not sure why, though, because again, they bought him this transfer window. He was loaned out to them last year from the Bundesliga, and now that they bought him, I just don't see him getting plenty of playing time. So I don't understand the reason behind buying him. They were planning on buying Savinho as well, unless Thomas Frank came in and said that's the man I want, which then does make sense. But overall, they may have too many players out on that right side then to again. I mean, who's going to play in all those positions? What are your thoughts? Would make a great impact. Yeah, I mean, Savinho would definitely make a huge impact for Tottenham. I mean, Tottenham, I think, is going to be a very good team. Like I said, with all the players they have, I think they're going to be hard to beat. They obviously could go missing in certain matches, but I do think they're going to be a good team overall for the most part. I need to take a drink, by the way, because I've been talking for like an hour and a half. So give me just a few seconds here. All right. Um, but he said, "Man, you." I, I may have said Manchester United. I'm not too sure. I mean, they go by all sorts of different names: United, Manchester United, Man U. I mean, if you're watching on the TV, usually, or it used to say Man U on there. I'm not sure if it still does or not. Is that what I put on my thing though? I'm just looking. I can't see because there's something in my way here. I probably put it that way then, just because otherwise it'd drop down to the next level. You have solid unbiased points at respect. I try to have unbiased points. Obviously, being a Chelsea fan, I still have my biased points with Chelsea, but I try to see what other teams can do for the most part. Which again, I do think I'm not sure when you jumped in here, Manny. I do see where again the top five, six could be very close. Like again, I think any of these teams can obviously win the Premier League. I'm not going to say Chelsea are the favorites or anything. I think they're a dark horse as of right now. But I gotta back my team. I wouldn't be a fan if I'm not backing my team. But like I said, I could see Tottenham pushing into the top six, top five, depending on how things go this year. I do think Newcastle do struggle this year, especially like I said. I don't think they brought in the players they need to compete for Champions League position this year. Aston Villa, I think, can do okay, but it might be difficult for them. But like I said, to get a Champions League spot this year is going to be very difficult for the most part. But anything can happen. I mean, injuries can happen, new signings can come in, transfers, teams can get hot, and like I said, when that happens, anything can really happen for the most part. But most of these teams, I think, like I said, will keep a steady pace all season long. Where again, I think as the season goes on, they're going to start breaking away from the rest of the group. So again, it's probably going to be like those five right here, and then six is going to be like maybe like 10 points off, if not more. And then obviously from there, it's going to just keep dropping. And then I think the bottom five, six is going to be a massive drop off from the rest of the sides as well. But that's why I think for the most part. But yeah, just looking over here for the most part. Yeah, nothing over there. Curious who you guys think. I mean, who you guys think is going to win the Premier League if you guys are here, obviously. I'm assuming you're not thinking Chelsea. I'm assuming you're probably thinking someone else is winning the Premier League for the most part. But I think most of the teams. Do you think any of the new man? Hold on. Do you think any of the new Manchester United players will break 20 goals? I mean, I hope Sesko does, but that's personal wise because he's on my Premier League team. But I do 20 goals is a hard number to beat. Like you have to think about I mean, to score 20 goals, you're on target almost all season long. So I don't think I see any of them breaking 20. They could be close. I could see them. I mean, I think it's the same thing like what I talked about with Liverpool. They have so many different guys that are probably going to score goals, which again, I think that's going to just spread all the goals out for the most part. And I want to say 15 might be like their ceiling this year for anyone who scores goals. And I don't know if that's going to be Bruno, if it's going to be Sesko, if it's going to be Mbomo, or if it's going to be Cunha. It could be anyone, really. But I don't see them breaking anyone breaking 20. And even like Chelsea, really, if I'm being realistic, I don't know anyone from Chelsea is going to break 20. I think João Pedro could come close, but again, I think he's going to split minutes as well, and therefore, like I said, might be difficult for him to break 20. Like 20 is a hard number to break, which, like I said, I think Erling Haaland easily breaks 20. I think Yorkeres easily breaks 20, and Mohamed Salah, just going off history for Mohamed Salah, I think breaks 20 as well. So I almost had to go with those three guys. Again, it would be almost disrespectful not to put these three guys in, even though Yorkeres obviously hasn't played in the Premier League. And when he played in the championship, he did okay for the most part, but it's a whole different ball game for the most part when you're playing in the Premier League. But I gotta assume again, playing for Arsenal, he's gonna find the back of the net multiple times throughout the season, and therefore again, I could see him scoring 20 goals. Now, if he doesn't stay fully fit, then yeah, he's obviously not breaking it. But I can't see Kai Havertz pushing him out either. I know Jamie Carragher has talked about him possibly getting pushed up by Kai Havertz halfway through the season. I just can't see it for the most part, but maybe it does come down to his link of play because I don't know if he's going to be one of those good players that, again, they can do 1-2s with. I mean, that's the problem with Erling Haaland, but Erling Haaland scores so many goals, you don't usually have to worry about him link of play, and especially because City have so many different players that can link up and they do all the connection and eventually find Erling Haaland inside the box. Whereas, like I said, for Gyökeres, that could be a big problem for them. I think Gyökeres will struggle to score goals, but I will see, though. Ben will be 20 when Charleston scores 20 plus goals this season. We'll see about that, Manny. We'll see about that. Again, I would be very surprised if Charleston scores 20 goals because I do see him splitting time with Solanke as well. But you never know. Thoughts on Sunderland? I think Sunderland will be phenomenal. I would replace Gyökeres with Isak for your fantasy league. Oh, I'm sorry if you did that. because Isak's probably not going to play for the first two matches, at least because next match is Newcastle versus Liverpool. But Sunderland, I think, did a phenomenal job for their first match. I think they're a great team, and I think they'll be very difficult to beat. Isak, though, I'm not sure what's going on with him because after watching what Liverpool was able to do in that first match, I don't think they need Isak. And it doesn't make sense in my mind as a fan why you would spend 140, 150 million. I think euros, maybe this pounds, I can't remember. They keep switching the currency rate. But to spend that much for Isak, who again, yes, is a great player, but it's not like they absolutely need a striker. Like Ekatike can be that guy for them. They also have Mohamed Salah who can score goals. They have Florian Wirtz who can play as a false nine, play on the left side. Cody Gakpo. Like they have different players, and on top of that, they could easily go and buy a different striker for less than that I think could do the exact same job or close to it. Because like I said, if Isak does come in, yes, it's great. But I think they need to use that money and spend it on their defensive areas or maybe their midfield a little bit more because I don't see how well they can play all year round. The fact that they had to use Endo as a right back in their first match of the season really shows you that they are lacking depth. And now I understand Connor Bradley is out hurt right now. So they do technically have two right backs. And the fact that they had to use Endo, though, really shows you that they're very low in depth in certain areas. And I don't think they're low in their attacking third. So again, to spend 150-ish million for Isak doesn't make sense. Now that being said, for Newcastle, then for Isak, also it's been ridiculous because the fact that he said he's not going to play for Newcastle ever again pretty much shuts that door. Now, does the door stay open if he stays at Newcastle? Yes, it does. But I think it's going to be a very difficult environment, especially St. James Park is always difficult for any team to go there. But to be a player for Newcastle and then have your team or your fans turn on you, like it's even that more difficult. And maybe Eddie Hall does stick to what he said and said he's not going to play either. But like I said, I got to assume if he does stay at Newcastle, he's got to play for the most part. But maybe he goes off to another league as well. So if that's the case, Newcastle obviously then have to buy another striker. But maybe they do still rely on Isak. It's going to be up in the air. I'm curious to see if that does come down to the wire at the end of this transfer window. Yale did great in the World Cup. Very delusional of Chelsea winning the league. Yale did great in the World Cup. I mean, I got to be delusional if I'm a Chelsea fan. Come on. Premier League ain't winning the Prem. Be serious. We'll see. Chelsea too good. Arsenal winning the league. I mean, if history repeats itself, Arsenal's not winning the league. I mean, last year should have been the year that Arsenal should have won. And I know they didn't have, again, Gyökeres there last year, but Arsenal literally should have won the year last year. If you look at what they did the last handful of years prior to that, they were competing with City. Like they were going head to head with City. And last year, I don't think, yes, Liverpool obviously were a good team, but they weren't as good as City were last year or 2 years ago. And the fact that they were able to keep up with City, and then all of a sudden they just dropped off this year. And like I said, I know they had some injuries. I know Saka was out a little bit for the most part, but still, Arsenal should have won last year, and they also should have won the year that Leicester City won. Like they should have had multiple Premier League titles now, but they haven't done it. And because of that, I can't really predict them to win it again. And I do think Arteta isn't the guy for them. I don't think Arteta is going to be the guy that wins it for them. They have to bring a different manager in to win that Premier League, and I just don't know who that would possibly be, who would come in for Arsenal, because not to say that Arteta hasn't obviously built a very good team for the most part. He just can't get them over the hump for the most part, and that's the problem for Arsenal. But maybe he does it this year, but the fact that he's only won an FA Cup with how good Arsenal, again, when I say good, they haven't won a trophy or anything, so again, you kind of have to knock it a little bit, but they're still a very good side. The fact that they only won an FA Cup since him taking over, and it's already been 5 years, really is quite concerning. And again, I'm not an Arsenal fan, so I don't really care too much, but if you were an Arsenal fan and you're seeing them not compete in any type of title or finals for the most part, it's quite ridiculous. I know they had a Europa final against Chelsea and Chelsea beat them, but still, they haven't had many finals in the last decade or so. And they have, I mean, prior to that, when Arsene Wenger was there, they were making FA Cups at least, which again, FA Cup is still an honorable thing to win, but they haven't done with Arteta. Again, that's me going on a tangent on Arsenal. Poland breaks assist record. I think, Connor, it can easily happen for the most part. Again, I think Cole Palmer has the utilities or the players in front of him, and he can utilize his skill set to, again, pick up many assists this year. And I think once he starts racking up these assists, he's going to be constantly looking to play those balls, and players are going to constantly try to shut him down, but really he can just play so many different balls to different players that they're going to score so many goals this year. Everton prediction, I predicted it's going to be a 0-0 draw, but I could see Everton losing tomorrow or Monday to Leeds, but I could also see them winning. But I think it's going to be a draw. I think both teams are just going to come out defensively wise, and no one's going to score a goal. And there's going to be obviously opportunities for both teams to score goals, but I don't think either of them are going to find the back of the net. But we are going to be doing running tally throughout the entire season. Right now, I think I'm +3 on my predictions or +4 on the season. Granted, there's only been like 6-7 games for the most part, but each week we're going to try to do predictions. I'm not on lives, but if you go through my video history, you'll see those for the most part. So you can see my prediction if you wanted to, Lewis, on all the other teams too. Let me see here. You play FPL, lad? I do play FPL. I'm not doing very good because I went with Verts, Kirkes, and Virgil van Dijk. Those guys didn't do well for me. I had Jared Bowen, who obviously didn't do very well today. I did have Reinerts in my squad, though, who did well. And actually, let me pull up my team real quick here. I'm going to see actually how we did. Fantasy Premier League here. Let me log into my side here, and I'll let you know. 67 points. Well, I'm a bit jealous. Let's see here. Point-wise, I'm at 25 right now. And let's see, I have Solanke, who obviously didn't do well. I forgot to switch my subs. I completely forgot to look on Friday because obviously everything locked in on Friday because I should have switched him because I have Gyökeres on my side and I should have put him in over Solanke, but I didn't. I still have Cole Palmer, Gibbs White left, Cucurella, and VDV and Sanchez. So again, I'm probably not cracking at least 40 points because I'm at 25 right now. But granted, Cole Palmer, if he has a great game tomorrow, he's my captain. He can obviously help me out for the most part, but my team definitely struggled today or this weekend. So we'll see what happens. Sunderland might be mid-table. I could see that. Got like 13th or less much. Sunderland looking like they might be mid-table. Yes. Chelsea funds. Let's see here. Did I just hear 6-7? You may have heard 6-7. Well played. 7 of 10 rage bait. I mean, I'm not sure what the 3 out of 10 would be non-rage bait though. How many points did you get? I only got, well, right now I only have 25. Yeah, 25. But Cole Palmer is my captain. So obviously if Cole Palmer goes off tomorrow, I could easily pick up quite a few points tomorrow. So we will see what happens with that. And I still have Cucurella, who I think will get a clean sheet tomorrow, and Robert Sanchez as my goalkeeper. So, I mean, I could get a big swing tomorrow. And Gibbs White is my other player left. And I'm not too sure how it's going to go for him, but I think they're going to just absolutely destroy Brentford tomorrow. So, like I said, I could pick up quite a few points on here. Who do you think will be promoted back to the Prem next season? I mean, I got to assume Leicester does a bounce back for the most part. I think Coventry could easily come up. I want them to come up because of Frank Lampard, being that he is their manager. They came so close last year. I think they got knocked out right before. Was it right before the final? For the most part, I think they were very close. If I'm thinking correctly. So I think those two teams, and then I'm trying to think who else I would like to see. I mean, obviously, everyone's going to say they want to see Wrexham come up, but I don't think Wrexham's going to do that many promotions all back to back for the most part. But I mean, they obviously are doing quite well that they could maybe do it, but I'm unsure what happened today in the Championship League. So let me look at some of the fixtures here. Swansea won, Stoke, Preston. Oh, Stoke would make a sense, and I do think now that Sunderland's back, I do hope Stoke makes the return as well too, because I think both those teams remind me of the Barclay Premier. Like if I think, I mean, granted, I still gonna think of Chelsea, Arsenal, and all those other teams, but if I'm thinking like mid-table teams, Stoke and Sunderland are those two teams I always thought about for the most part. I'm a Leicester fan, so I want us to be back, but as right now we're looking to be a mid-table team. I mean, yeah, and obviously the Championship is such a difficult, league for the most part. You play so many matches, and again, I think any team can really beat any team for the most part. Sheffield United struggling as of right now. I'm just looking at the table as of right now. Portsmouth, actually, oh man, Portsmouth would be another team. I used to love when David James played for him, and then Benjani. Benjani with his celebration was one of my favorite celebrations as a kid watching the Premier League. So I do hope that Portsmouth also would get promoted, but obviously there's only so many teams that can get promoted each and every year for the most part. Where Man United in the top 5 engagement? Because I think Man United can actually do quite well for the most part. I think, like I said, defensively wise, I think they're okay, but I think Man United's actually going to defend with attacking. the players that they brought in, they're going to be very hard. Like they're going to high press with Ruben for the most part, and I think they're going to score quite a few goals. And like I said, I think they're going to have a lot of games where they win like 3-2 or like 2-1 or 4-3. Like they're going to have very close games, and a lot of their games are going to be back and forth for the most part. And like I said, I think they can really beat any team on any given day. They can obviously get beat on any given day too, but overall, I think they're going to be pretty good. There's more of us than you think. I'm not too sure. Let's see. American with ball knowledge. Oh, thanks, Liverpool. I feel like it's always back and forth on what people think about my ball knowledge here. Is SA available for tomorrow? Night Pro, I don't know as of right now. I gotta assume if he's not available tomorrow, that means he's on his way out because I gotta assume if it's Arsenal or Tottenham, I think both teams are really going back and forth him, and I think he does want to go play for Arsenal. But if someone puts a bid in for him, I gotta assume that there's something in the clause that he cannot play another match for Crystal Palace. Like he has to be like on the injured reserve or not even on the bench. And if that is the case, he's obviously on his way out. If he is playing tomorrow, then I think he sticks at Crystal Palace for this entire season for the most part. Which, again, if I'm looking at Crystal Palace, in my mind, I talked about this a couple days ago. In my mind, it makes more sense for Crystal Palace to keep on to Esse and Mark Ahi. And the reason why, yes, I understand that they could possibly leave on a free, at least Mark Ahi can. To go through the Conference League, I think Crystal Palace can win the Conference League. I think if they were to win that, then they obviously get pushed into Europa League, assuming there's no financial or legal issues or lawsuits that happen like it happened this year, because they should be in Europa. But I do think they can win that. So they keep building. They can actually start doing more and more with winning all these tournaments for the most part. And like I said, they obviously still have to focus on the Premier League, but if they keep those guys, then they get Europa. They can actually bring in new players that want to play in the Europa League. They can build off of that and keep building and building and building. Because I think the problem with Crystal Palace is they've had so many great players. Like if you go back and look at some of the players they've had, Wilfried Zaha, Olise, who's now is at Bayern Munich, Esse, and then obviously some defensive players. Like they have good players that have come through the system, but they just can't keep hold of them. And that's the problem with a lot of mid-table teams because once a bigger club comes and starts knocking on the door, trying to buy them, most of those players will leave, which rightfully so because they're going to get paid more, and obviously they're looking to win silverware as well. But I do, again, believe that Crystal Palace, if they win the Conference League, they can then start making some different runs in different competitions as well. They just won the FA Cup. You can classify the Community Shield however you want, but it's another trophy that they can add to their cabinet as well. So again, they are building momentum currently. And then Oliver Glasner, is that his name right now, the manager? I think he's a very good manager, but I do see him possibly leaving Crystal Palace. And he, in my opinion, could be the guy that goes to Arsenal if Arteta doesn't win the Premier League and gets let go at the end of this season. I could see him overtaking him at some point and possibly being the guy that does actually win it for Arsenal, which, again, that's a lot of ifs and maybes that could happen, but I think Glasner is a very good manager for the most part. Score prediction for big game tomorrow, I think 2-1 Arsenal. For Arsenal, 2-1 Arsenal. I'm thinking it's 2-1 for Manchester United. I think United wins the match tomorrow because we're playing Old Trafford. I did a video on it for the most part. I think Old Trafford's a very difficult place, not just for Arsenal, but for a lot of teams. And I can't remember the last time Arsenal's actually won at Old Trafford. They've had a lot of draws and a few losses, and I think in the last handful of seasons, like that's a spot that had Arsenal been able to win at Old Trafford, they would have won the Premier League a couple years ago. But they can't get all 3 points whenever they go there. SA would have stayed at Crystal Palace if they stayed in Europa League, maybe. That's true. I mean, again, it's a shame because I understand the reason, the legal issues, but at the same time, I think both teams should have been able to play because the chances of them playing against each other are very unlikely. I mean, obviously it could happen, but even if it does happen, I think the players still want to play and do well, and they're under contract to play well. It's not like one team is just going to let the other team walk all over them. So, like I said, I think both teams should have been able to play in Europa, but that's just my opinion on it. He said he wanted Tottenham per Fabrizio. Oh, so maybe Tottenham then, because I don't know if you just. Oh, Manny's already here. Yeah. So I guess if Fabrizio, and again, I feel like Fabrizio does pull a lot of strings, so I'm not 100% sold on him saying that he's going to Tottenham because I think he may be trying to pull some strings for the manager or the agent to, again, get more money in case Arsenal then want to buy him and try to pay more for him. So I'm always weary on what he says with what's going to happen for the most part because I do think he fabricates a few things to allow agents to get more money, which then I think he gets a kickback. Not that we know that for the most part, but I wouldn't be surprised by that. It's crazy for me to say that Palace may fight for a Conference League spot this season. I mean, they could fight for a conference league spot, but I think they can win the conference league. Like if they win the conference league, they get then promoted into Europa League. Like it doesn't matter where they finish in the table, they automatically get Europa League then. So they could, like I said, focus on the conference league and do very well in that. And again, I think they can win it. We saw Chelsea win it last year, and obviously they should have won it. But like the teams that we played, like we steamrolled most of them. There was maybe like one or two teams that beat us. I know Warsaw beat us at Stamford Bridge, but we pretty much were walking through that team already. That we didn't have to worry about that match too much. And then even Real Betis in the finale, again they scored first on us, but overall like, we were the better team throughout the entire match, minus like the first 15 minutes. I do believe Crystal Palace could do the exact same thing going through the entire tournament if they keep all their players that they currently have right now, because I think they are very good defensively wise. They have guys that can score goals, and like I said, I think if they win that, they can then get Europa League. I hate Arsenal as much as the next person, but they did win there in 23-24 season. Um, I'm not sure what you mean they won. Oh, they did win? I thought for sure. Oh, maybe I'm mistaken then. Was that for the Premier League or was that for like an FA Cup? Because I thought for the Premier League they haven't won um, in there in a long time. But I guess maybe I'm forgetting that match. Then I thought it was for a while. I think it's Florentina were in the finale or final. It would have been a closer match. I mean, that was a team I was more worried about to see in the finale, but the fact that again they didn't make it, so therefore again you have to play who you're against. I think Real Betis was still a good team, but yeah, it was a team that we should have beaten no matter what. And even if we would have played Florentina, I think we would have beat them as well. It probably would have been maybe a closer match, but I think we would have won. Chelsea ain't winning it, bro. Again, I gotta back my team. I wouldn't be a fan if I wasn't backing my own team for the most part. Um, we're pushing almost 2 hours here, so I may be hopping off here shortly, by the way. So if you are new here, by the way, we're going to be live commentating for the Chelsea match tomorrow. So again, if you want to listen to me yap the entire match, I will be doing it live, and then we'll probably talk a little bit after the match for the most part. Otherwise, any Chelsea match, we always do commentating if it's on a weekend. Monday, Fridays are always difficult. Sometimes I'll catch them at the end, and then we also do lives like this every now and then too. So in case, again, you just hopped in for the most part. How will Xavi Simons fit into the Chelsea with Cole Palmer and Gittins? Don't think the bench is good. I mean, if we get Xavi Simons, there's a possibility that Jamie Gittins then sits on the bench for the most part. Even though I think Jamie Gittins is a very good player, it's difficult because, again, you have to play some of these players. You can't obviously play everyone that we buy for the most part, because even Esteval has to play at some point, and that means that Pedro Neto then has to go to the bench, or do we put him up top, and that means João Pedro and Liam Delap obviously on starting. Like, we have so many different players that makes it difficult for us to, again, be creative in who we want to start, but that's the nice thing for Chelsea and Enzo Maresca. Now, granted, you have to keep all the players happy in the locker room, and that's Enzo Maresca's job for the most part. But to have all these different players, like he can then go and tell these players, like, hey, listen, like we're gonna start Xavi Simons with Cole Palmer today. But what we're going to do, and probably around the 60th minute, we're going to bring Jamie Gittins on to then run at tired legs, who's going to be absolutely phenomenal for the most part. But if things happen in the match where all of a sudden we're down, we may do it quicker, or if something else happens, we may do something else differently. Like, I'm pretty sure Enzo Maresca has different tactics and different plans on where the match is at given points. So therefore, again, it would make sense for us to, like I said, do something along those lines and see how it goes. Thoughts on Garnacho to Chelsea? Not a big fan of Garnacho. I mean, I don't really hope he comes to Chelsea. If he does, I'll obviously back him as a player. It's just hard to say because I think he is a good player overall. It's hard to rate him or any United player from last year just because United was so bad last year. I think there is a good player inside Garnacho. The only thing is he has to obviously be coachable because he's a guy that really just dribbles with his head down, and that is a big problem for me, but obviously for other players and teammates and managers because he's not seeing what's in front of him. And like I said, there was many times where if he would have played the ball to someone else, like United could have scored a lot of goals with him again playing the ball to other players, but he can still strike a ball. Like I think that's the problem. He has a big ego, and because he has scored some great goals, but overall, like I said, it's difficult. And hopefully he doesn't come, but we will see. Most biased predictions I have seen yet. Oh well, I mean, I feel like I've seen more biased ones, but if not, it's what it is. Why do you think we signed so many wingers? It's not just Maresca, but we have always had them. The thing with wingers, I think, is why we buy so many is because they're an easy sell. Like you can buy wingers and then sell them for the most part. Like you bring them in and they play a good season. Other teams are going to want to buy them because we bring in wingers on a low weekly salary. Like I think Noni was getting like 90K a week, maybe not even. And the fact that like Arsenal's like, hey, we'll double that and pay you 150, like it's almost a no-brainer for him to be like, I might want to go for the most part. But then Chelsea can be like, oh, we'll match that. So like I said, we buy a bunch of wingers, but we put them on low salaries to then again keep them or then move them on if we can. And then, like I said, if we sell them like we did with Noni, we made, I think, like 20 million, 30 million off of him, which again is ridiculous price for only having him for like 2.5 years for the most part. So again, it's a great business for Chelsea. Not that I think we should constantly do that, because I think we should keep a lot of our players. But if a player wants to leave, let them leave. That's how I look at it. No point in keeping them around, because, like I said, they might be more of an issue in the locker room, and you'd hate for that to happen though too. So, yeah. So that being said, though, like I said, do you see Palmer playing on the right to accommodate for Xavi? Yeah, Cole Palmer will play on the right. I think majority of matches, but Cole Palmer is able to again facilitate around into different parts of the pitch, and I do think with, again, depending how we look, I'm not sure if you were here earlier. No chances when I was talking about tomorrow's match. I didn't know Tosin was out hurt. I just found out, I guess. I missed that this morning. But I could see, again, us doing a little bit heavier in the midfield with having Reece James in that area. And like I said, having Moise Caicedo with him, Enzo playing as a 10. Not that like Enzo playing as a 10, but then pushing Cole Palmer on the right wing. If not, like I said, Reece James going down the right back. And then whether we go with, say, Chalobah and Hato Cucurella, like I said, it's very difficult to see how we're going to do it. Unless we go with Tosin, or not Tosin, Chalobah, Cucurella, and Malagusta on the left side, which is a possibility, but we will see what happens. But I do believe Cole Palmer can pretty much play almost anywhere we need to, and as long as he's able to go anywhere for the most part, he's a good player. You do FPL? Yes, I do. I do FPL, which again, I didn't do very well this week, but it all depends on how Cole Palmer does, because he's my captain. So if he goes crazy, then I will do okay, but I only have like 25 points because my Liverpool players didn't do very well. I get you support them, and obviously you want to see them do well, but come on, bro. Chelsea not winning. I think they're a dark horse. And again, Chris Waddle, one of the people from Sky Sports, also had them. So again, I'm not the only delusional player or fan out there for the most part. Who's the most underrated player in your opinion? And like all of football, like throughout history, or just currently? Because the most underrated player right now, I think, is Pedro Neto. I don't think he gets the credit for how good of a player he is, because the reason why I think people don't realize that Reece James was able to stay fully fit almost all of last year is because of Pedro Neto. The man is able to track back so much and help out defensively wise that therefore, again, Reece James didn't have to constantly bomb back all the time. He had a guy that could do that for him. And again, he could just push up as much as he wanted to, but really Pedro Neto allowed him to do most of that. He's a guy that really plays his heart out each and every match, and he's just a great player. So like I said, I think Pedro Neto is probably the most underrated player currently. And yes, I do like this kit. I do need to get a new one. I mean, I love the Samsung logo here, but I do need to get a new one, especially with the new badge in the middle. I'm kind of surprised Pedro Neto was not as injury prone as he was at Wolves, despite how hard he works. I mean, again, I think with Pedro Neto, he gets rotated a lot at Chelsea, whereas at Wolves, he was kind of one of the main guys. So like I said, at Chelsea, we have plenty of wingers that allow us to, again, rotate players, that we don't have to solely rely on him to play a full 90. He can play, say, 75, 80, or full 90, or even 60 minutes, and then we can bring someone else on. And especially now with Estevao on that right side, I don't see him playing a full 90 too often, but again, he possibly could be. Anyone in the back, I got the same one. Yeah, I have... this one, again, was bought before everything happened here, but I have Matic, is because he was one of my CDMs I really like. I prefer any CDM player. CDMs, I think, are one of the biggest helps in the midfield. So again, I probably will buy a Moise Caicedo jersey. That's probably going to be my next jersey I buy. I'm trying to think of the other CDM jersey. I have a Makelele jersey. I have... I have a Xavi. I have a Xavi Alonso, but that's for Bayern München. Again, I like CDMs for the most part. Reece James is the best right back in the ever play the sport. I mean, I'm not sure ever. I'm not sure about ever. There's some pretty good right backs that have played before Reece James. Again, I do love Reece James. He's a very good player, but I gotta say there's some other players that have played better than him. Man United are not finishing top four. What are you smoking, bro? I mean, they're not finishing. I have them finishing fifth. Chelsea first, City second, Liverpool third, Arsenal fourth, United fifth. So I'm not sure. Is that a 2015? This is, yeah, 2015. I also have a 2006, the third kit, a white one. I have Azpilicueta with the 3 on the front. I have the black jersey from like 2005, I think it is, and I do need to buy a new one. And I have a few other jerseys. I mean, I have a big collection of jerseys, not just Chelsea. I have um, Deutschland. I have a few Germany jerseys, Schweinsteiger. I have a Michael Ballack, a few Bayern München, Hanover, Hamburg. I have more Bundesliga jerseys than I probably should have for the most part. Um, so anyways, yeah. So I'm gonna head out. By the way, guys, I've been doing this for roughly 2 hours. So again, if anyone that hopped in, thanks for hopping in. Again, we are doing a live for the match tomorrow against Crystal Palace. I'm predicting us to win the match 3-0 as of right now. I'm not sure who's starting for Crystal Palace. Obviously, I don't know who's starting for Chelsea as of right now, but I think we do have the better team that's going to win tomorrow. So, again, if you are new here, like the page if you want to. You can subscribe, again, if you want to as well. Like I said, we do lives for Chelsea matches, so we'll be doing that tomorrow at 9 a.m. Eastern Time. So, we will see you tomorrow. Peace.